Hey now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. We are here with you from 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock this afternoon. It's a football-heavy Tuesday of 580 Sports Talk. Chiefs report to camp. Running backs are pissed off all over the league. Even the ones who are getting paid are pissed off all over the league. Looking at you, Mr. I'm about to pass $60 million made in my career, Christian McCaffrey. We're going to talk all about it coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. I understand the plight. I'm not trying to be too critical of these guys. I understand you work your whole life to be the best at your craft, to be great, to be a champion, to be among the best of the best of the best. And then you get there and you have media members and fans and the people who run your team telling you that you're trash and you have no value. I imagine that would suck. Like if I worked, through college and through, if you worked at other jobs and you got here and it's like, man, I got to a great job, get to do cool stuff, get to talk about pro sports, about college stuff. This is awesome. And then if our boss was like, well, you guys are trash, I'd feel pretty bad. I understand it. I understand the plight.
Being fungible is not a good feeling.
No, I would much rather be non-fungible. Not in token form, just in general. So we'll talk about the running backs here in just a moment and a possible plan for solving what right now appears to be a major problem for running backs. Plus, from the Chiefs' perspective, how valuable, because that's kind of the whole concept is the value of a running back. And just because you're great doesn't mean you're maximizing value. Maybe just two good backs is more who are cheap is more valuable than one great expensive back. That's kind of the whole crux of the issue. So in terms of the most valuable running back rooms, where do the Chiefs land? I kind of think they're near the very top of the league. So we'll touch on that all coming up this hour. Also, a quick pivot. We were going to talk a little college football in the 4 o'clock hour, but Andy Reid is speaking to the media right now. He actually came on a little bit late, but believe it or not, Andy Reid started a press conference late. Unbelievable, really.
It's never happened before.
No. So we're going to hear from Andy Reid to lead off the 4 o'clock hour, get some initial thoughts on Chiefs camp for quarterbacks and rookies opening up today. Very, very exciting day. By the way, we are 13 days from our first Chiefs training camp report with Mitch Holthus. So get excited for that. So we'll hear
That's
from Andy
what this show needs, man.
Yeah.
We need the infusion of Mitch Holthus energy that we will be providing in 13 days.
On the bright side, on the downside, it sort of feels like it's the end of summer because it's, we get a month of Mitch and then through camp and then camp ends and we got football season.
Yeah.
But it's also the best part of the summer because you get Mitch Holthus every single day. So we'll take the good with the bad. Absolutely there. So we got a lot of Chiefs, a lot of NFL to get to today. Michael Swain is going to stop by from fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. A lot going on with KU. We'll get a football recruiting update. One of KU's major targets chose somewhere else this week. KU loses a recruiting battle to Virginia on the football side of things. Marcus Adams, as we talked about yesterday, leaves before boot camp, 4-star freshman. What does that mean for KU going forward? What's next for the Jayhawks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We will preview Royals Tigers tonight. We've got a boatload of 580 Sports Talk headlines. What is wrong with you? Random Question Tuesday. All of that and more coming up over the next 3 hours here on 580 Sports Talk. We're getting to your texts. You know the number, 785-272-9429. And the YouTube comment section is open all show long. Our YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Go subscribe if you haven't already. Help us get to 300 subscribers. We've put in a lot of work on the YouTube. Think it's a lot of fun. If you want to come check it out, watch the live video stream of the show and hang out in today's live comment section. Already a quick hello from Vance saying hello to the boys, and he can't wait for Mitch Holthus to pop up. I can't either. I'm excited. It's been a long time, been much too long since we've talked to the voice of the Chiefs as he goes into year 30 broadcasting Chiefs football games. Again, just 2 weeks from yesterday, that will begin. But we start today with the running back problem all around the NFL yesterday. And we talked about this during the back hour of yesterday's show. Matt Miller from ESPN at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter tweeted out that this is the way you handle running backs in today's NFL. You draft one, you run him into the ground, pick up the 50-year option, franchise tag, and then, either or, and then you let them walk. And when they get to what for most positions is the make your one huge, gigantic contract years, you just let them walk away after you've used them up. And pretty much every single professional running back who has a Twitter and hasn't gotten paid this year. So essentially every running back except Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon and the rookies came out and said this is trash.
And even Joe Mixon took a pay cut. Like he's got a right to be too.
And Jones did too. Jones could have made more. They just said, nah, I'd rather stick around. I'll just take a little less. Austin Eckler was very upset about it. He's been very vocal for months now. Derrick Henry said we might as well just take running backs out of the game. And Christian McCaffrey has actually gotten paid. He's fast approaching, especially if he plays out the string in his contract with the 49ers. He will be one of the, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 7 highest paid running backs ever if he plays it out. And even he was saying, this is messed up. Jonathan Taylor's been vocal about it. Obviously, the guys who still are going to play this year on the franchise tag, a lot of vitriol about this. And it has led to a lot of discussions. We had some yesterday, especially during the 5 o'clock hour, and especially with Matt Verderam, too, when he joined us, about what is the balance between paying great talent and essentially maximizing value, knowing that if you pass up on an A-plus running back, you could get a B-plus running back for a fraction of the cost, and you tack on another, B-minus 6th-round rookie, you're going to have one of the better running back groups in the NFL at a tiny sliver of the cost it would take to get a Derrick Henry or pay an Austin Eckler or a Saquon Barkley as an example of that. The best juxtaposition of this is Saquon this year, if he does end up signing the franchise tag, and I assume he's going to, he'll make $10.1 million. Isaiah Pacheco is not even going to make $1 million and was the leading rusher for a Super Bowl team, is going to probably have a bigger role this year once that hand gets fully healthy.
Yeah.
And like, if you're the Chiefs, which would you rather have? If you're the number one contender to win a Super Bowl, which would you rather have? Try to finagle around the cap to fit in Saquon, who's the superior talent, or take a 7th-round rookie who doesn't make anything relative to the cap, essentially, who's still, quote-unquote, pretty damn good, and that's more than good enough. And it's a tough balance, because we've always been on the side, too, of keep great players, pay great players. And that's why the Giants case, as we've talked about a bunch, is so ridiculous, because they paid a not great player, and now they don't have money to pay Saquon. Or, well, they could pay him, but they chose not to pay Saquon because they gave Daniel Jones so much money. It's an interesting, I think it's a fascinating case. I think it's a fascinating discussion, assuming everybody is like on topic and making sense. But you, Dan, have come up with a potential solution based on something from a different professional sport, from Major League Baseball.
So neither side is wrong here,
right,
which is what makes it such a difficult dilemma, because, running backs should probably be paid more. It is wild that they are such an important position. They're a hugely important position on the field. And the great ones are truly great players. And we're treating it like it's the long snapper gig. Like it's, we'll go find another one. We'll go find another one of these. It's the only position, we talked about this yesterday, where the value of the franchise tag has gone down over the course of time.
Which is insane.
Every other position, now they make more money on the franchise tag than they used to, except running backs who now make less. But it's a salary cap league, and you've got to save money somewhere if you want to be able to be under the salary cap and pay your elite talents, pay your superstar quarterback if you've got one, pay your superstar pass rusher if you've got one, pay your superstar left tackle if you've got one. All of those positions command high dollar figures, and you've only got but so much room under the salary cap and no real way to finagle over it. Like, this is not a sport where, like in the NBA, they have what are called a player's Larry Bird rights.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, the basic explanation of that is if you've had a player for 3 years or more, you can go over the salary cap to sign that player. You can exercise bird rights for multiple players, and you can exceed the salary cap to sign that player. There's no such exemption like that in the NFL's salary cap. If, for example, let's say those did exist. Let's say the Giants had Saquon Barkley's bird rights and they could pay him whatever and didn't have to worry about the salary cap. They do it. Maybe Barkley wouldn't get exactly what he wanted, but he'd be making more than $10 million this next season. They would do his deal, and they would do Daniel Jones' deal in the same offseason if they didn't have to worry about one of those guys, or either of those guys in this case, counting against the salary cap. So that's one idea. But the other thing that I think could be interesting, Major League Baseball just started doing this last year. There is a new bonus pool in place that is incentive-based pay for Major League Baseball players who are pre-arbitration. We discussed this yesterday, but a quick refresher. If you are in your first 3 years of your Major League career, you are a pre-arbitration player. You are not eligible for salary arbitration, and a team can renew your contract for a minimum salary that scales upwards over the course of those 3 years. So you are what is known as cost controlled at that point. There is but so much money you can make if your controlling team, if the team that has your rights doesn't feel like paying you any more than that. So there are a lot of guys pre-arbitration who come up and they're great, right? Like when Aaron Judge hit 52 home runs as a rookie, he was pre-arbitration. Bobby Witt Jr., pre-arb guy last year, hit 20 home runs, stole 30 bases. There were a lot of guys. Like Dylan Cease had a great year last year, pre-arbitration guy. Julio Rodriguez, terrific year, Silver Slugger, all-star, pre-arbitration, first year as a pro. So what Major League Baseball did in the most recent collective bargaining agreement, the union fought for this and they won this in the negotiations, is the creation of a bonus pool that's $50 million. And all of the teams contribute equally to this $50 million bonus pool. And a percentage of it is held for payout for players who finish in a certain place in MVP voting or Cy Young voting or Rookie of the Year voting or all MLB voting. That's $11 million out of the pool goes to those players. And then the rest of it, there's $38.75 million of it that is reserved as a payout for statistical accomplishment. It's based on your wins above replacement. There's a formula that the league and the players union agreed to that is the wins above replacement formula that they use to determine the bonuses for these pre-arbitration players. So like last year, Dylan Cease for the White Sox had a terrific year. He's top 5 in the Cy Young balloting. He was an all MLB performer. He made an extra $2.5 million on top of his pre-arbitration salary. Yordan Alvarez made an extra $2.3 million. Alek Manoah was having a tough year this year. Last year was an excellent season for him. He finished high in the Cy Young balloting. He made $2.1 million. And 8 other players, including Spencer Strider of the Braves, Adley Rutschman of the Orioles, Michael Harris II, the National League Rookie of the Year, Julio Rodriguez, the American League Rookie of the Year, they all made in excess of $1 million from the bonus pool. And on top of those 11 players, 89 other players received some form of bonus compensation based upon their performance while they are cost controlled. You know who else is cost controlled? Rookies in the National Football League. There is the rookie wage scale, right, that got put into place in the last NFL. Might not have been the last one. It may have been the one prior to that. But
it was the 2011. I think it was 2010 or 11.
So the rookie wage scale has been in place for a while. And it essentially sets the number that you can sign for as a rookie. Your wages are set not based upon, I don't think it's based upon position. I think it's based upon where you were drafted.
Yes, correct.
So the number 2 pick can get signed for X amount of money for your 4-year rookie deal. Because everybody signs that rookie deal. It's 4 years and it's X amount of money. And that is chiseled in stone. That is what you get if you are drafted in this particular spot.
This is why, except for just a couple of examples, and I seem to remember this happened within the last 2 years, rookies don't hold out anymore. Because if you remember, like the late 2000s, the late aughts, rookies held out constantly as they were negotiating their contracts. I think Sam Bradford held out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And he got that gigantic, massive
like
deal.
$75 million, something like that.
The next year, Cam Newton, when he got drafted, 4 years, $22 million. That's what Cam Newton got. 1 year after the number 1 pick, got $70+ million.
Right.
And they don't hold out anymore. And it essentially comes down to the wording in the contract. The money itself locked in. And now almost the entire first round gets their money fully guaranteed. I want to say it's around the first 20, 22 picks or so the teams just fully guarantee it, and they just specify some of the language. So it is very similar that, hey, you get picked third overall, this is the amount of money you get. And when you get to rounds 6 and 7, frankly, the scale is so small, the window, the slot value, if you will, to make another baseball analogy, is so small, there's no point in holding out, because it's like, okay, either make $600K or $602K. Like, let's just get to camp. So
right.
it has become much easier for the teams to fit those guys into the cap that way.
But it also tamps down the earning potential for a young player, particularly for a first-round pick, because teams have that fifth-year option, can only make but so much money over your first 5 years in the NFL. The amount of money you can make in your first 5 years, if you are a first-round pick, like sometimes better be a second-round pick, because then you can at least get to that second contract after 4 years instead of having to wait for the 5, because teams will always pick up your fifth-year option. And
unless you're Josh Jacobs.
Unless you're Josh Jacobs.
But that's the Raiders. That's a different case.
Yes, that is exactly right. And, of course, there are lots of examples of teams doing long-term extensions with young players before they get to the end of that rookie contract. Obviously, that happened with Patrick Mahomes, happened with Josh Allen, it's going to happen with Joe Burrow. Like with franchise quarterbacks, this happens pretty frequently. You may note it's not happening to running backs all that often, as it turns out. So that would be something I would propose, and something I think that the NFL could actually manage. Put some money in a bonus pool and have that money go to players who win major awards while they are being paid rookie scale. So for Saquon Barkley, as a rookie, 1,300 yards rushing, another 700 receiving with 90 catches, went over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. He was the offensive rookie of the year and made the Pro Bowl. That ought to be worth a little more than the $4 million or whatever it was that he made out of the gate as the number 2. Was he number 2 overall pick in the draft?
Saquon was 2.
Yeah, so he was number 2 overall pick in the draft. And that was what he made, was $4 or $5 million. Could have maybe made a little more if there were incentive based. And then that way, because that's what the league has decided, is that we're going to take advantage of the labor, the cost controlled labor of young players, particularly at the running back position. And we are going to get the production for a fraction of the cost. And once those guys cost any money, we're not going to pay them. You weed out the middle class of player at a lot of position. We talked yesterday. How many guys out there that are good players, they're starting caliber NFL players, still out there in free agency right now?
Tons of them.
And because the salary cap's fake, right? The salary cap's not real. It's an artificial number. There's no reason it has to be what it is. There's no reason it has to exist. Like, there's no reason that there should be a limit on how much a team can spend on a player. There isn't. But the owners put that there, and they did it under the guise of, we're going to, parity, and everybody has a fair shake, and we're not going to give a big market a better chance over a small market. And on the one hand, like, I guess it works.
Yeah. It essentially came down to, or one fairly cynical way to look at it is, nobody can outspend anyone else so that we don't end up looking bad. So, like, the teams in the larger markets, the Jets, the Giants, the Rams, whoever, can't spend $400 million on player salaries, whereas you might have the Packers not able to compete with that kind of financial might. And maybe that's good for the fans. No, that's not good for labor. It's really, really bad. Salary caps are borderline unethical when it comes to, like, labor practices. Borderline unethical. So I'm just trying to find a solution where we can get these guys paid a little bit. And the rookie wage scale, I mean, that may as well be chiseled in stone now. That's not going anywhere. No. Now that that's in place, the league's never giving that back. But maybe there's a way to make sure that some of these guys who produce a great deal of value for their teams while they're on their rookie contracts can actually be paid commiserately for it. And then instead of Saquon Barkley going to make $10 million this next year on the franchise tag, well, maybe he's already had a $10 million season. Maybe last year as a Pro Bowler with 1,600 total yards, he might have been paid out a little bit more in a bonus system. Might have made an extra $1.5 million, $2 million. So
I'm not saying just do that for running backs either. I mean, that can be for players in any position.
That was going to be my next question. And I think that is where the union, the NFLPA, would have its best argument and would more likely be willing to argue for this. Because if you say we only want this for the rookie running backs, then you get, I'll give you an example. Rashee Rice blows up as a rookie, second-round pick. He's getting good money. There's no doubt about that. But he's closer to $1 million a year than he is to $5 million a year or $10 million a year. He's not getting first-round money, but he blows up. And he's saying, hey, wait, I outperformed my salary. I absolutely outperformed my salary. I was the Chiefs' second-best receiver. I was the number 2 production receiver for a Super Bowl contending team. Like, I deserve more. Why does just Isaiah Pacheco get more? He had a good year. I had a great year too. Where's my money? And I think the NFLPA, which is for a sports union, really conservative. And a lot of people would tell you they've gotten their ass kicked by the league in the last couple negotiations. I think if you said, well, what if you do it for everyone? You end up with the league saying, okay, we can do that. We would be much more comfortable than having infighting amongst our players. And that was my big question, is because I think it makes a lot of sense. And the people who this helps more than anyone is the players that we've talked about so much, who are those like B+ 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round guys, like an Isaiah Pacheco, or Saquon was number 2 overall pick. Josh Jacobs was, I believe, the 28th overall pick, first rounders. Tony Pollard went 128. He was a 4th round pick. That's the kind of guy who that helps. And I think that is where helps the most. Really, right now, the best kind of running back you can be, given the current state of the NFL, is a first-round pick running back. Yeah. Because at least you're getting first-round pick money and maybe the 5th year locked in. Again, unless you're the Raiders. Whereas if you're Tony Pollard, he's been the best Cowboys running back for at least a year. You could argue, and I would, 2 years in a row, he's been the best Cowboys running back.
I would agree with that argument.
For nothing relative to the salary cap, relative to Ezekiel Elliott. So I think if you were to argue, we want this for all rookies, and we want this, and like the aim is we want to take care of the guys who are drafted later. I think there's a lot of sense to this. I really do.
Obviously, we're not crying poor for on behalf of any of these guys. You mentioned Rashee Rice. He's going to make it $1.6 million.
I would take that
4 years.
I
would love to sign one contract in my life that would pay me $1.6 million for a year.
Dude, I would take $0.16 million. That would do a lot of good. Let me tell you.
Yes, that would that would clear some decks.
Yeah, no kidding.
It really would for not just for me, for a lot of people. So we're not crying poor on behalf of these athletes, but I think for labor in any line of work, you want to see guys paid, compensated commiserately for the value they provide. And I don't think you see that for rookies and up to 5th year players in the NFL. And you definitely don't see that for young running backs. And that's why we're in the spot that we're in right now. And I think there are ways for the NFL and the players union the next time a CBA comes up to say, hey, how can we do a little bit more right by these young guys? Because as we all know, the average NFL career is only 3 years.
I would say that if the NFL, Lloyd Howell, that's the name I was trying to look up. He's replacing DeMaurice Smith as the head of the NFLPA. If they are willing to actually go to bat for the players, I think this makes a lot of sense. And honestly, when we talk about the CBA for the NFL and why the league has dominated in the last 2 times they've been signed, it's because there are so many players in the NFL. And so many guys who know the average career is 2.8 years. If you're a first-round pick, I think it's 9, but most guys aren't first-round picks. I don't have that long to be in the league. But if you say, hey, this is specifically for you. This is for you, undrafted rookie. This is for you, 7th round, 6th round pick. We want to get you more money. This helps you more than it helps anybody else. So you should be on our side for this. I think that would be a strong argument.
Because you know what NFL guys support? Not just themselves getting paid. They support their teammates. They support other guys in the league. They support other guys at their same position getting paid. Because everybody who's involved in this business understands you've only got but so much time to make your money, and you're one bad step on field turf away from never seeing that money again.
I can't remember if it was Mahomes or Burrow when talking about contracts recently who said, hey, look, it's not about being the highest paid guy for me. It's about just continuing to build up the price to pay for starting quarterback. I think it was Burrow, since he really needs a new contract. Like it's more about paying.
And I think Mahomes has expressed some similar.
Yes, you're definitely right about
sentiment.
that. No, I think this would make a lot of sense. By the way, and we don't need to talk about this a lot because I'm not a labor lawyer, so I don't want to get into things that I'm not perfectly versed on. But when the CBA comes up in another 8 years, you know what the NFL is going to say? The exchange is to get, like, sure, we'll make a bonus pool. We'll have a $60 million bonus pool. You know what the trade-off is going to be?
18 games.
18 games.
Yeah, that's the big hammer.
But honestly, like, if they're dead set on adding that 18th game, you should be adding extra money to the pool.
Yes, pay me more for working more hours.
Like a lot more money. So
that's typically how labor negotiations work.
Yeah.
You want us to work more? Pay us more commiserately for it. Text from the 785, and we want to hear your thoughts on this. 785-272-9429 is the text line. We got a text from the 785 regarding the salary cap. We talked about this. Without the salary cap, football would be baseball with 2 or 3 teams winning all the time. The cap's great for the sport. I'd love to make what they make. The cap is great for fans. 1,000%. The cap is great for the competitiveness of the sport. It has made it harder for teams to have dynastic runs. It has made it harder for teams to stay together. That has been by design. It has made it easier for downtrodden teams to be able to build up their own rosters to remain competitive. I've always said the NFL will drag you to, it used to be 8-8, but now let's say 8-9. The NFL will drag you to 8-9 one way or another. The way the economics of the league work, one way or another, you're going to meet at the 8-9, 9-8 middle. The great teams will be dragged back down, and the bad teams will be dragged back up. That's just the way the economics of the league work. And from a fan perspective, from a fan interest perspective, I do think it keeps people invested. I do think it's good for fans. I do not think you can argue that they are good for the labor in any of the sports that they exist in, because it's an artificial cap on how much money you can make.
Let's get to a timeout. We're going to talk about the Chiefs' place in all this coming up in a few minutes. Specifically, how valuable is the Chiefs' running back room? Pacheco, McKinnon, Prince, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire too. Where do they stack up in terms of the most valuable running back rooms in the NFL? But before we get there, we're going to play a round of Random Question Tuesday. That's up next on 580 Sports Talk.
This radio commercial was made to convince you.
Tuesday time on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. All right. I'm going to give you a movie ticket this weekend, a single one movie ticket. It's either for Barbie or it's for Oppenheimer. Where are you going?
Oppenheimer. Easy.
Easy?
Yeah. What do I see Barbie for?
I don't know. Maybe you are into the whimsicalness. Maybe you're into the like weird existential plot line that the movie apparently has, where Barbie enters the real world and meets Will Ferrell, who is apparently playing the same role that he played in the Lego movie.
Which is the same role he plays in every movie. to a certain extent.
To a certain extent.
No,
yeah.
Oppenheimer genuinely looks good.
Yeah,
like,
it looks awesome.
I am fascinated by that story. I did a science project report on J. Robert Oppenheimer. Not like a project like I built my own nuclear bomb or tried to, just like a report on like an important person. And as I remember that report, I remember, learning about that in history class.
Mm-hmm.
I got, my degree's in history. So I am fascinated by that. I might actually, I have not been to a movie theater to see a movie. I think since before COVID. I think it's been that long.
Do you know what the last movie you saw was?
It was Ford versus Ferrari.
Nice.
Yeah, it was sick.
I heard that movie was good. I never saw it.
Yeah, it was really good.
I rarely go see films in the theater. Like I like going to movies, but I don't do it very often. The last time I went to one, Abby and I went and saw the Super Mario Brothers movie a few weeks ago. That was awesome. That movie ruled. Yeah, I'd go see Oppenheimer too. Bobby Oppenheimer, get your country ass over here.
Yeah, I'm out on the Barbie. I don't think my wife is all that interested in that either.
Oh, my wife already has her ticket to go. Yeah. She joined the theater in Lawrence. She joined the rewards program thing,
Sure.
and essentially you go to 2 a month and it pays for itself. So she bought her ticket like weeks ago.
Okay.
She has been very ready for this movie.
I might be able to talk Abby into Oppenheimer. I don't think there's much interest in Barbie one way or another. We're TV people more than we're movie people.
No, that's fair. I really like Christopher Nolan. I think he's a great filmmaker.
Yeah.
I just watched The Dark Knight. It was on cable a couple weeks ago. That movie holds up. It is awesome. Such a good movie.
Yeah, that is a good one. I didn't see all of like that era of Batman, but Dark Knight was really, really good.
I've seen all three. I hate Liam Neeson. That is one of my hottest takes. I hate Liam Neeson.
Yeah, you're not a Liam Neeson guy.
Not even one bit. So
you're out on Neeson.
You cast someone else in Batman Begins other than Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, A++, 11 out of 10. But it's got Liam Neeson, so it's like a 9 out of 10. But the other two are great.
Speaking of TV,
okay.
Abby and I are TV people. My favorite television character, my favorite live action television character of all time returns to the small screen tonight as FX premieres Justified City Primeval, the return of Deputy U.S. Marshal Raylan Givens, played by Timothy Olyphant. The original Justified ran, I believe, from 2010 to 2015. It is 6 seasons. If you subscribe to Hulu, it's on there in full. Run, don't walk to watch it. If you have not, I can guarantee no matter who you are, you will enjoy it. It is awesome. And Raylan Givens rules. I'm so excited for this mini series or whatever, like limited series. I'm not sure exactly what they're calling it, but I am jacked and pumped for the return of this character and of this show. So my random question today is, who is your favorite live action television character of all time?
Oh my God. Favorite live action television character of all time. I have seen so few like famous TV shows and like iconic TV shows. Oh my God. That is really tough.
Text line, I want to hear your answers too. 785-272-9429. Favorite live action TV character of all time. YouTube comments, same deal.
Dang, that's really tough. I would probably go, and I mean, this is like when I watch TV, generally I'm watching a sitcom. Like, give me 30 minutes, give me something I can binge easily. I might say Frank Reynolds from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Danny DeVito.
Sure,
it might be Frank Reynolds.
That's a strong choice.
Alternately, and I've talked about this show a handful of times. The other two on HBO, Lance, the boyfriend. Unbelievable, perfect character. No notes, 10 out of 10, perfect character.
Supporting characters. You don't have a lead that grabs you.
No, like even the other shows that like Frasier, I watch Frasier constantly. All of the best characters are not Frasier.
That's true.
Kelsey Grammer, great, but Niles, Daphne, Roz, Martin, all better characters. Every one of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, some shows, though, are meant to be on, like, It's Always Sunny is an ensemble.
Right.
But no, it's Raylan Givens for me, and it's Assistant District Attorney Jack McCoy from the original run of Law & Order.
Sam Waterston.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love Jack McCoy. They brought him back for the new Law & Order. The new Law & Order sucks. It's so bad.
He's the actual DA in the new Law & Order, right?
Now he's just the DA.
Yeah.
And I was delighted to see Jack McCoy back on my screen. But yeah, it stinks. It's really bad. It's like, I never liked SVU, but I like SVU. Like, I watch it with my wife, and SVU is much better. Olivia Benson, maybe number 3 on my list, actually.
Yeah, she is great.
Yeah,
she
Olivia
is
Benson, great.
Truly great. I've always liked SVU more than I liked regular Law & Order, but SVU gets so dark that I really can't watch very much of it because it's a little too grisly for me. I'm not as much into the crime shows, but I do like Stabler and Benson, always have.
We got a couple of nominations from the text line from the 785. One in for Walter White, of course, the main character of Breaking Bad. I tried twice to get into Breaking Bad and just never was able to stay with it. Not that I thought it was bad, just never got the timing right, like personally, to stay with it. I think I tried to start it once and then I had to move. Might have been twice. I started watching it and then I had to uproot my life and just never got back around to watching it. Another one for Leroy Jethro Gibbs, the original protagonist from NCIS, played by the former UCLA quarterback Mark Harmon. So there's a sports tie there. Another one from the 785, Michael Weston from Burn Notice, and also Lafayette Reynolds from True Blood.
Yeah, in Burn Notice. I was really into Burn Notice for a few years. Okay, I've got a couple others that just came to mind. Speaking of USA shows, Adrian Monk.
Yes, my wife loves Monk. Has all the DVDs.
Really
loves that show.
Love Monk. Great show. Both Sean and Gus from Psych, both of the main characters.
Okay.
Tremendous. And then another role player, if you will, Keith from The Righteous Gemstones.
I love Keith.
Keith is also a perfect character.
I do. I love Keith.
Keep sending those in. Favorite.
I want only the best for Keith. By the way, I did specify live action because there is only one answer to the greatest TV character of all time, and that, of course, is Homer J. Simpson.
So send us your favorite non-animated live action TV character of all time. Hit us up on the text line or in the YouTube comments. Let us know your favorites. We'll get to some more of those over the course of the show. We've got to get to a break. We'll talk about the Chiefs running back room next on 580 Sports Talk. 347 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you. Still just getting started on this Tuesday afternoon. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up next hour. But while we discuss so much about running back value and the value of having cheaper but still talented running backs as opposed to paying big bucks for the most talented running backs, I was curious, where do the Chiefs fall if you were ranking 1 through 32, the most valuable running backs room? So the best combination of talent and cost for your running back room. I think number 1, mostly because of who they have and the scheme they have, even though they're paying a lot of money, I'm still putting San Francisco number 1 because I think Christian McCaffrey is that good. Debo is that good. And frankly, you put any running back in that system, they will get injured. Amazingly, McCaffrey's the only one who hasn't. But they will get injured, but they'll put up crazy numbers. That's how Shanahan run games have always been. But honestly, looking around the league, I think Green Bay's is up there mostly because Aaron Jones took a pay cut this year, and he's been a top 10 back for a long time, and A.J. Dillon's still on a rookie deal.
They've got 2 number 1s, which a lot of teams I don't think do. No,
very few teams do. And I think the Bears have been good. It helps that they have a quarterback who's a great runner, but Khalil Herbert, former Jayhawk, former Virginia Tech Hokie as well, he's been really good. They drafted Roschon Johnson, who a lot of people thought might have been, if Bijan hadn't been at Texas, Roschon Johnson might have been a star and could have been a top 60 pick this year. He ends up going in the 4th round of the Bears. He's dirt cheap, really like their room. But honestly, you look around the league, I think the Chiefs are really close to the top. Pacheco is a bona fide number 1, and he was playing hurt last year. Edwards-Helaire, he's not going to play beyond the 4th year of his rookie contract, which still isn't that expensive since he was the 32nd overall pick.
Still think he's making more than Jerick McKinnon.
He is. Yeah, McKinnon's making almost nothing, and he was phenomenal last year. Last 2 years, late in the season, he's been great. And last year, all year, he was fantastic. And then if it's true that Deneric Prince has an inside track to make this roster, that's a UDFA. He's making to the NFL pocket change. That's one of the best rooms, I think, in the entire league. If you're just talking about the dollars and cents combined with how talented this team is, I think it's no doubt top 10. And honestly, if you wanted to argue top 5 based on what you think the projections are this year for Pacheco, I would listen to that argument. Absolutely.
Other teams that I think have really good running back groups, I would throw out the Dolphins with Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., and they drafted Devin Achane, who
that's right, they did,
was Texas A&M's entire offense. And I mean, you talk about speed.
That's a good one
at the running back spot. They're really solid. Baltimore's is really good and really young and really cheap with Dobbins. Gus Edwards is, I think, a solid guy. Justice Hill can make some things happen. Trying to think if there are any others I really like. I mean, the Browns have Nick Chubb. That's all you really need to have a great running back room is that guy.
And I think that's where the interesting part of this comes in. I think Nick Chubb is top 3 running back in the league. That's where I would put Chubb. I think he's a stud.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep him around, you got to pay him a lot of money.
Another team,
and you should, because he's great.
Another team that is real strong at running back, Atlanta, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier.
Yeah. And that's dirt cheap.
Yes,
for a lot of talent.
You got Bijan, obviously first year of that rookie deal, and Algier was a 7th round guy, 6th or 7th,
6th or 7th, I think. Yeah, he was well into the 100s. I know that for certain. He was he's 5th round pick, 151. But you're not expecting to get a starting caliber player generally right off the rip late in the 5th round. So great value there.
And I'm fascinated to see how Seattle's running back room looks because they are really, since the departure of Marshawn Lynch, they've kind of become the team that has very much just churned through young running backs. And unfortunately, a lot of them have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
But like Chris Carson, 7th round pick, they took Rashad Penny in the 1st round, but he was a young guy. And when he was not cheap anymore, they let him walk in free agency.
Yep.
Now they've got Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet, both 2nd round picks. And, Walker year 2, Charbonnet is a rookie. So maybe that's a homer pick, but I think that's a fascinating room to see develop this year.
No, Kenneth Walker had a great rookie year.
Yeah.
And he's making $2.1 million per year.
Yeah. But the Chiefs, I would certainly put them, I think they probably do belong in the top 10 with what Pacheco flashed as a rookie and with the productivity that you got from McKinnon in his role. Like, is there anybody better in his role in his team's offense than Jayhawk McKinnon? Like, is there a better fit as far as square peg into square hole than Jayhawk McKinnon as a backup running back in the league, as a number 2 running back? I would argue that there is not.
No, probably not. I would say probably not, because you sort of get that thing. Like, I would look at Green Bay and Aaron Jones's game is different than A.J. Dillon's game. But again, those two are often both listed as your starters. That's not the same as your third down back or your number 2 option back. So, yeah, I mean, McKinnon is the perfect fit there. And what's he making, $1.5 million this year?
McKinnon, yeah, not a lot.
Yeah, I think that is right about what he is making. Google, so uncooperative sometimes. $1.27 million for a running back who's going to play 35% of your snaps. And last year went 6 straight weeks with a touchdown and can run and catch and is a great pass blocker. Well, what more could you possibly ask for? Remember a couple weeks ago when I said that the Chiefs had actually broken the NFL's offensive game planning in a way you wouldn't expect, because they have brought back the run because of how much NFL defenses have changed to take away their deep shot offense? Like, they have somehow built their perfect running back room for pennies, and now they can still take advantage of this new beast that they have created. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, I was thinking about this last night. I was putting the show together, and I thought, the Giants, they got to figure this out, because Saquon he wasn't especially efficient last year, but he's their best offensive player by a lot. The Raiders had the number 1 rusher in the NFL last year. And while I think their best offensive player is Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs is number 2, and it's really not close in that regard, I think. Tony Pollard, huge for that Cowboys team, especially last year when they kept freaking turning the ball over. They needed to have that stable running back, and that's what Tony Pollard was. The Chiefs, we'll pick a 7th rounder, rookie free agent. We wasted. That's mean. I'm not going to say Clyde was a wasted first-round pick, but a first-rounder that did not.
We missed on a first-round pick.
Yeah.
We overdrafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
And then signed a guy who everybody thought was damaged goods because he tore both of his ACLs, and he has become one of the best backup running backs in the league. And now we have one of the best running attacks in the league. By the way, we also have a top 2 offensive line. I know it's a copycat league. I know a lot of teams would love to just copy the Chiefs, but there's only one Patrick Mahomes. But they are probably the best example of you don't actually need an elite player on a big contract if you've got all the right pieces in the right spots. And frankly, the Chiefs do. They have all of the right pieces right now. Speaking of the Chiefs, we are going to hear from the head chief, Big Red, Andy Reid, coming up to lead off next hour. His press conference from the opening of Chiefs training camp today. We'll have What Is Wrong With You, and Michael Swain will stop by for this week's edition of Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. It's all next hour on 580 Sports Talk.
Get your
now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. I'm Brendan Dworzynski. He is Dan Lucero. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you missed anything from the first hour of the program, you can go check it out on our website, 580wibw.com. Just head to the podcast tab and click on 580 Sports Talk when the menu pops up. That's where you can find the podcast version of the show every single day. And of course, you can go and check out the live stream on YouTube, and you can rewind at any point. Just simply scroll backwards and you'll be able to see anything from the first hour. You can zoom in and check us out live on the show right now, on camera, on video, today and every single day that we're live for 580 Sports Talk. And of course, while you're on YouTube, go subscribe to us. We're trying to get to 300 subscribers. We're at 286 right now, or at least were when the show started. So we would love, if you haven't subscribed yet, to do so and help us out just a little bit with our YouTube content. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up here in just a moment. Chiefs opened up training camp for their rookies and quarterbacks today. It's like pitchers and catchers, rookies and quarterbacks. We'll talk to Michael Swain a little bit later on from Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. All about everything going on with the Kansas Jayhawks. It's Jayhawk Weekly. And we've got today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Plus, we'll get to your texts, 785-272-9429. That is the text line number. And, of course, the comments on YouTube as well. Again, the name of our YouTube channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. We've got Royals baseball coming up tonight. Royals taking on the Detroit Tigers, game 2 of their 4-game series. And last night, not especially great for the Kansas City Royals. Well, it started out really well. Jordan Lyles, killing it. He's on fire.
6 strong for Jordan Lyles.
He's been fantastic. And as the kids say, and then what happened? Didn't end so well.
So I had a game on, and it was 2-0 Royals in the 8th inning, and I saw Taylor Clark give up the leadoff double. And we have brought up on the program that Taylor Clark has become something of a harbinger of doom for the Royals every time he takes the mound. The last month or so, things don't seem to go very well when he pitches. And so there was some concern, but then my attention was diverted. And when I looked back up, there were 2 outs. Clark had gotten a strikeout swinging, 2 outs. That run was still on second. Tying run was coming to the plate, but I thought, hey, they'll be able to hand the lead to Scott Barlow tonight. And then I had to leave the room. And then when I came back to the room, it was 3-2 in the bottom of the 9th inning. And I said, oh, dear.
Things are going great.
Taylor Clark and Jose Cuas. This is the part of the season where, so obviously you got the trade deadline not far away. And the Royals have already moved Aroldis Chapman. And they're probably going to move Scott Barlow. And there are more and more rumblings, and we'll talk about these as we get further along in this week. There are more and more rumblings that Carlos Hernandez is going to draw some interest.
I was just reading a piece over at MLB Trade Rumors today about Carlos Hernandez and why he would be very interesting to a lot of teams.
So the Royals obviously should get what they can, try and restock their rather fallow farm system if they can get some prospects of intrigue in return for either Scott Barlow or Carlos Hernandez or both. But what that ends up doing is making it really, really hard to win baseball games. Harder than it already has been for the Royals this year, because instead of turning an 8th inning lead over to that left-hander who's a 6-time All-Star and throws 102 miles an hour, now you're handing those leads over to Taylor Clark. Those 2-run leads are now Taylor Clark's responsibility to protect and Jose Cuas's responsibility to protect. And those guys aren't very good at that. So this is how losing teams stay losing over the course of a 162-game season. And there are going to be a lot more games like this. But hey, Freddie Fermin and Nick Pratto drove in runs. That was good to see. It was not good to see Pratto and Waters strike out in the 9th inning, not get the ball in play at all in the 9th inning to try and get a rally started. That was disappointing, but also kind of who they are, because they strike out a lot, both those guys. So, not great. But, hey, Jordan Lyles, 6 strong. We'll take it.
It's something. And that's really all we have with the Royals. We will preview the second game of the series between the Royals and the Detroit Tigers coming up in just a little bit. Right now, though, we are going to hear from Big Red. Andy Reid spoke earlier today as the Kansas City Chiefs opened up training camp for, again, rookies and quarterbacks, and we will get that audio for you here in just a moment. This has been, as we've remarked before, kind of a boring offseason for the Chiefs just because they really haven't had a lot to worry about. They're coming off their second Super Bowl in 4 years. They've got their entire core back.
Yeah, not a lot of roster churn really anywhere.
They really just need to figure out the deal with Chris Jones. I mean, is there anything else, and I don't want to miss anything, but is there anything else that the Chiefs, they need to worry about right now? Honestly?
Complacency, the disease of me, like that kind of stuff, but that's the coach's responsibility.
Yeah, I would not be sweating it too much right now if I was the Kansas City Chiefs, but obviously head coaches, they view things a little bit differently. So without further ado, let's hear what Big Red had to say today as the Kansas City Chiefs opened up training camp in St. Joe.
Got a good group of guys coming in. We'll be about one deep, so we're going to have to work the rotation as we go with the camp, but it'll be a good one for us to get these young guys some reps, and looking forward to that. And once the vets get in, really, and you'll probably see him up here today, Turk will be starting off on PUP, and then we'll just make a decision with Pacheco as we go forward here. But those are really the only two that would be on a list as of right now. So other than that, we're ready to giddy up and go, and I'll throw it out to you guys.
Andy, last year you started thinking very early about how Patrick was driving everything in terms of the leadership and sort of the fire of it all. What have you seen this offseason? And
yeah, so really during OTAs you saw that. He's not going to change that role. He's going to continue to be one of the leaders of the team, and you saw that with Kelsey, and you'll add Chris Jones in here somewhere as things go on, and he'll be another one that helps step things up. But we've got a variety of young guys that they've got great personalities, and I'm expecting them to continue to grow in that area too.
And where's the room for growth with Patrick? Obviously, it's there somewhere, but how do you?
Yeah. So listen, with quarterbacks, the work's never done, and I've mentioned before, it's like being a farmer, man. You just keep on cranking. So, and we're always trying to give him new challenges with things, and he loves that and loves to attack those type of things. So that's what. That's where it's at. But there are always things to work on. Fundamentally, there's always things to work on. He spends a tremendous amount of time at that and puts a lot of effort into it. And then obviously the new plays.
Do you mention Jones will be here on?
I don't know that. I'll have to just see how that goes. I mean, there's communication going on. That's the important part, and then we just have to see. Yeah.
With the rookies, Patrick mentioned that this is different. Camp is different than the offseason workouts. Have they really, you felt like, gotten the taste yet of just not only what it's like to be in the NFL, but also to be joining a team that the expectations are this high?
I think they'll feel that a little bit more now. I think you're a little bit guarded just by the rules for your OTAs and that. But it's a good foundation to build with. But this year this tests you both mentally and physically when you have to go through a training camp, and then they've got to deal with you guys every day. And it's just different. There are a lot of eyes on them, all the fans that are out there, a lot of eyes. And so it's different. There's a different intensity level. Plus, you're getting ready. I mean, you are getting ready for the season, and you're building that foundation for the season.
And if you say that being a quarterback is like being a farmer, from your role, when do you actually start to think about training camp before you ever even show up?
Yeah, so I take my work with me, and I spend a couple hours a day working on things on that time. I enjoy doing that. So, some people read novels. I look at plays.
Where does the boy lie in when you may know something, Coach, that maybe nobody else in the organization knows how camp is going to go exactly, but you sort of stumble upon something or something that sparked your interest? What's that feeling like when you know you're going to obviously eventually reveal that to everybody here?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's not there's not a lot of that goes on. I mean, I try to keep open communication with my guys, and I don't throw a lot of surprises out there for them. But this will be challenging, and we try to create that every year. It always ends up being created in a little different way, and so we'll just see how that goes.
Coach, you talk about challenges. I mean, really, year in and year out. What keeps you motivated? I mean, obviously you come out from another Super Bowl win, but what keeps you motivated to, keep pressing on?
Yeah, visiting with you guys. Listen, I love the game, and so I mean that's and we've got a good football team. I love the organization. I mean, being up here, Missouri Western State University, and the way the people treat us up here is phenomenal. So I mean, all of those things I look forward to and enjoy doing.
And Coach, have you watched the quarterback series on Netflix as it's been presented at the end here?
I haven't. I went through it with Ted before it was, when it was we were going through the process. Right. I had a pretty good idea what was going on with it, and it sounds like my wife watched it, so it sounds like it's a pretty good show, and I'm happy. It's good for the NFL. It's great for people to know what the quarterbacks go through. Yeah.
One of the things that you asked Patrick about, he said, you had to kind of approve of this thing, and you went through the stuff with Ted. What was that like for you to kind of make sure that some things you don't want to, you want the life out there, but you don't want some of the details that maybe are proprietary to you guys out there?
Yeah. So listen, Pat's got a good feel for that too. So, and likewise, Ted. Ted had probably the biggest part in all of it, having to go through every inch of it. But listen, there are things you don't want out there. I mean, the best you possibly can. It's hard in today's world with all the technology, but there's some things you'd like to keep in house, in particular the way we teach things, and so that's that's what we tried to do with that to a point. We shared a few things too. But
Andy, you mentioned Pacheco a minute ago. Longer term, is there any concern that he might not be ready for the regular season, or do you feel like he'll have enough time?
Adam, I think we'll have enough time, but let's see how this all goes. I'm be curious to talk to him. I haven't seen him yet, and Rick is likewise going to talk to him. So,
Coach, how big is the next for rookies and pinpointing Rashee Rice, and what can he accomplish and learn and prepare him for when the full practice starts on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's great for the young guys. I think it's good for the older guys just to get tuned up. They know what it takes to get themselves ready for the season, and this is a way to knock a little rust off. But for the young guys, I think it's even more beneficial, and it's also beneficial for the coaches to see the young guys and see what they can do and the progress they're making throughout the 3 games. So we'll just we'll see how that rolls. But I like having some form of preseason games. I mean, I just think that ends up getting you started for the season, kind of smooths out some things.
Coach, do you have to make any adjustments when your off season was so busy? Because this year, a lot more players got to celebrate the Super Bowl, unlike the last time. And then training camp starts a little earlier, so your kind of time in the middle is a little bit shorter. Are there challenges that come with that?
I think everybody's kind of ready to get going and just turn the page. It's over. All that stuff's over, and we're moving forward. And so I think the camp takes care of the rest of that.
Couple more guys. Andy, with Patrick Mahomes, you were just saying how much they enjoyed and embraced the challenge of going back to back. What lessons did you learn maybe from the last time you guys won and then came back, got there, but didn't win the championship? What lessons are you learning that you can take into this season?
Yeah, well, you've got to maintain your edge all the way through the season, and you don't take anything for granted. And so the guys that have been through that experience know that, and then you've got to have the ball flip the right way for you. It's there's so much parity in this league that there's nothing that's granted to you. You've got to earn it, and then there's got to be certain things that just happen for you in the right direction, and then you'd have a chance to do something like that. But to do that, you've got to go this one day at a time approach, and you've got to be intense through those days that you're given an opportunity to get better with.
How much do you just rely on guys like Patrick and Travis to sort of set that environment?
Yeah, I love their attitude towards it. That's infectious. As there are a number of guys that do that, but those two are, they've got eyes on them, and the way they go about their business is they want to be great every day and do the best they can do every day. and they understand that through the tough parts of this, that it pays off for you down the road.
Last one, Bob.
Andy, it's well understood that you and Patrick have had a wavelength since you met, really. I wondered how much closer you guys are to a shared vision of everything at this stage, and is there even room for that to grow? How you see things?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think time just, does that to you naturally, but he knows, he's got a great feel for things, and he knows what we're all about and what I want, and I know what he wants, and we just go about it and make sure we get everything taken care of.
That is Andy Reid, Big Red, speaking earlier on this afternoon as the Chiefs opened up training camp in St. Joseph, Missouri. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk. Anything stand out about Andy's training camp opening comments?
He hadn't lost any love for the game. I think a lot of people wonder how long Andy Reid is going to do this. And he's at the age where that's a reasonable question.
Sure.
And he's accomplished enough that it's not as though he's chasing anything anymore. I think people, whether you're a player or you're a coach or you're an executive or anything, you stay in the game as long as you're chasing something, as long as there's something out there to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy Reid caught the rabbit. He got the Super Bowl championship, and then he got it again. So the only line that was missing on Andy Reid's coaching resume has now been the only box he hadn't checked off. He's now checked it off twice. But he doesn't sound like anyone who's satisfied or complacent or any less in love with the chase, if I can continue to use the metaphor. Sounds like he still hungers for it. Sounds like it's still his driving passion is coming up with a playbook, coming up with a game plan, figuring out how to beat the team across from you on a week in, week out basis, and getting to work with the best quarterback maybe in the history of the league. Like we can start to include Mahomes, I think, already in those conversations.
Sure.
So I feel like it's an animated and energized Andy Reid, as much as he's ever animated and energized in one of these in these press settings, and that's a good thing. That's nothing but a good thing. That was the one thing that I would say jumped out to me.
I had a couple things that stood out. One, and speaking about his love of the game, the all-time wins marks in the NFL. Reid is still, and I got to do some quick math here, 81 wins behind Don Shula for the most all-time. Bill Belichick is 30 behind Don Shula, which the way the Patriots are playing, I don't know how long it is going to take him to get to those 30 wins, because I imagine Belichick is going to keep going until he breaks the record. That's what I assume for Bill Belichick. Andy Reid, how much longer is he going to go? He should, in all reality, end up in the top, certainly in the top four. He's only 3 behind Tom Landry for 4th all time. The Chiefs will win 4 games this year. I'm pretty certain about that. But is he going to be top 3 wins all time? The other one that I'm very fascinated by in terms of all-time marks, Bill Belichick has the NFL record for playoff wins by a head coach with 31. That happens when he wins 6 Super Bowls. Andy Reid is second with 22. It takes a long time to win 9 playoff games, because even if you win the Super Bowl as a division winner, generally speaking, and with the Chiefs every year pretty much not have, well, I guess it's a little bit different now since there's only 1 bye, but the max you get in a year is 4 playoff games, right? And if you're the number 1 seed, you only get 3. It could take 3+ years to get 9 playoff wins. I don't know that the Patriots are going to win a whole lot of playoff games in the near future. Most playoff coaching wins of all time is legitimately possible for Andy Reid. It is absolutely within the realm of possibility. I wonder if he's going to chase that number. I don't know that he's ever cared a ton about records like that, but if someone said it to him, I'm sure his eyes would light up a little bit that it is certainly possible.
No, I think the thing he wanted was the Lombardi. I
sure.
think that was,
but now that he has it.
Yes. I don't know. Again, it does feel like the thing that animates him is less the legacy stuff and the boxes on the resume than it is just, I love to draw up plays for Patrick Mahomes and try and beat people with these plays, which is a pretty cool way to look at what he gets to do. So I like that. I certainly had that stand out for me.
After Belichick and Reid, by the way, do you know who has the most active playoff wins?
active playoff wins.
It's
Peyton, right? Sean Payton?
Not Sean Payton. Technically, Payton is tied for 19th with 9 playoff wins.
All time?
All time.
Okay.
So there's a lot of ties.
So are you asking about active coaches?
Yeah. So Belichick is okay. So among active coaches, I'm sorry. So among active coaches, Sean Payton would be 6th.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be McVay.
No, McVay is 8th.
It wouldn't be McCarthy. Is it McCarthy?
It is Mike McCarthy tied with John Harbaugh and Pete Carroll. They all have 11, which is tied for 10th all time among all coaches in NFL history.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's won a lot of playoff games.
Yes, he has.
Not like recently, but
a lot of wins in there.
Yeah.
I had a very similar takeaway, just hearing Andy Reid talk about his love of the game and how he takes his work with him and all that. I just listened last week to a series that The Athletic did on their NFL show podcast feed. It was called The Play Callers. And one of their beat writers, Jordan Rodriguez, she did this 5-part series about the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel group, and how they all coached together in Washington. And they all really split off from Kyle Shanahan, who obviously learned under his dad, but also coached for John Gruden, or was an assistant for John Gruden, and learned from a bunch of other people in Tampa during that era, and like how they have continued to develop this outside zone offense and how they've all got different traits and they've continued to splinter off. And now you've got Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota and Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. Really fascinating series, but they focus a lot on Sean McVay because Jordan Rodriguez is the Athletics Rams beat writer. And he said after losing to the Patriots in the Super Bowl 53, said, I thought that, I was hungrier than ever after losing that. I thought that winning the Super Bowl would be everything to me, that everything I felt would be healed. Everything I've ever wanted would be cured by winning that Super Bowl when they beat the Bengals. And then it wasn't. And then he felt almost empty. Like he built this all up, but it's fleeting. Guys leave. The parade is over. There's off-season storylines, training camp storylines. Guys retire. Contracts come up. All sorts of narratives because it's a 24-hour news cycle. And all of a sudden, he didn't feel like that. That's why there was all the retirement talk. Like, is he going to step away? He really thought, like, what am I doing? I think it's fast. That's a very, new school kind of way of looking at it, where his whole life has been, I'm going to be an NFL coach. That's his whole brain. Whereas Andy Reid, a little bit more of an old school guy, but still so dedicated to his craft. Even after winning the Super Bowl, I think a lot of guys would say, nah, I'm good. I've won 2. I've had my fun. I've got grandkids. I want to hang out with my wife. Like, I'm done. He's obviously had family situations off the field, but he wants it, man. He wants to keep going. It's never enough, because it is not because he's got this insatiable hunger necessarily, but just because he loves the game that much. And I wish more people had that kind of passion in life for the things that they do. It's really amazing. He is, I don't know about one of a kind, but pretty darn close to one of a kind for sure. Let's get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael Swain is going to join us a little bit later on this hour for Jayhawk Weekly. Plus, we've got What Is Wrong With You next on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time here on 580 Sports Talk? Two news stories going head-to-head today. Trying to take down the speeding sheriff's deputy, the chief sheriff's deputy, in fact, of what town was this? Was this in
Henry
Georgia?
County in Georgia.
Henry County, Georgia, who was going 96 in a 35. Was pulled over by another police officer in the department, and he said, you know what, I don't really like this guy, so I'm going to ticket him.
Yeah, he called somebody, yo, you're never going to believe who I just pulled over. Driving like an idiot, going 61 miles an hour over the speed limit while he's on duty.
Yeah, that's the other detail in there. And said, should I write him up? The guy on the other line says, well, it's your stop. Do what you want to do. And he said, well, I don't like him, so I'm going to.
What I want to do is write this jerk up.
I love that. What is wrong with you, by the way, is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. My story is a quick one today, Dan. It's going to take us to Dayton, Ohio, where two people were taken to the hospital after an ATV crashed into a police cruiser on Friday morning. According to the Dayton police, an officer was out driving when he saw a four-wheeler carrying two people without lights on. Dayton police then said the officer made a U-turn, but the four-wheeler drove into the eastbound lanes and struck another police cruiser. The driver and passenger were taken to the Miami Valley Hospital in stable condition. No officers were injured in the crash. Why did this happen? They were ATVing while under the influence.
Yeah, sometimes you make it really easy. You come right to the police at a high velocity.
Having not really grown up in a rural area, being very urban in my upbringing, I never really got the appeal of like ATVing or mudding or any of that. Like,
yeah, that's not really my scene either. We're both city kids.
Yeah, I know tons of people around here I know are into that. I got a bunch of friends who love that kind of thing. You got a big property for sure. I get it.
Yeah, where were we going to go do that? Like around the mall parking lot?
Yeah, right. So I don't know why you would do this without lights on, getting drunk and driving your ATV around, but I guess it just clicked for these folks.
Yeah, just definitely don't do this drunk. But I mean, we always appreciate, I'm sure law enforcement always appreciates when you make their job really easy and you just come right into their lap
for them. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
By the way, this has nothing to do with your story whatsoever, but because it's a link from a news organization, they got those terrible sponsored content links, the SpawnCon at the bottom of the page. And one of the SpawnCon links immediately beneath this article says, Larry Bird is 66, and this is his wife.
That's pretty funny.
That's from Investment Guru. You can click the button to read more.
Yeah, these are so bad always. This one is NFL star Rob Gronkowski's favorite shoes. It's a pair of Skechers. They are not his favorite shoes. Also, we have Topeka Restaurant. This is all like geotagged.
Yes.
Because the story is again from Ohio. We have one story that says Topeka Restaurant named best burger in the U.S.
Yeah, I have that one too. Do you want to click on it?
Do you also have Topeka College named worst college in U.S.?
No, I don't have that.
I don't really trust brain-sharper.com, so I'm going to leave that one alone.
Yeah, this is thedaddist.com, and it's just a list of hamburgers. And I wish I had clicked on it because it's going to make me hungry because they got hella pictures of burgers here. I don't know, however. Oh, here's Town Topic in Kansas City, which is notably not Topeka.
Not Topeka.
Cherry Cricket in Denver, they do have a great hamburger.
Fittingly, you have a food story today.
I do have a food story today. We are going to Florida.
Yep.
Can you believe it? St. Pete Beach.
I can.
We're going to Rick's Reef, which is a St. Pete Beach eatery, and we meet 46-year-old Sarah Ann Kuchera, who threw a burrito at somebody and missed. And hit somebody else in the face.
What's the line from The Wire? You come at the king, you best not miss.
Yeah,
you throw your burrito, you best not miss.
Well, technically, she didn't miss because she did hit somebody, just not her intended target. Investigators were called Wednesday evening to Rick's Reef due to a female subject yelling at customers. That was Kuchera, who lives with her boyfriend at his condo just down Gulf Boulevard from Rick's. A witness told police that Kuchera was in a verbal dispute with a man not identified in an arrest affidavit. At one point, Kuchera threw a burrito at this subject, but the airborne burrito did not strike the man with whom Kuchera quarreled. Instead, the Mexican delicacy hit the victim in the face. The affidavit does not indicate whether the victim was injured by the burrito. Kuchera departed the restaurant before cops arrived, but she remained nearby and was not cooperative with deputies. She was charged with disorderly conduct, a misdemeanor, and booked into the county jail. She bonded out of custody early Thursday after posting $250 bond. Kuchera's LinkedIn profile lists her as a financial advisor with a financial services company in the Tampa Bay area. She was arrested last month for allegedly punching her 66-year-old boyfriend in the face during an argument in their residence. So throwing a burrito is kind of mild.
Get out of here.
Unless it's not mild, unless it's medium or hot.
A volcano sauce on it.
Oh, my eye. I'm not supposed to get burrito in it.
I would pick this story today, but I don't think either of these beats the speeding sheriff's deputy.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with our current weekly champion, but we'll give the nod today to Sarah Ann heaving a burrito. Again,
the indignity of getting hit in the face with a burrito.
We have asked a similar question about throwing like a sandwich or throwing a hot dog, food as a projectile. Do you think you're just grabbing it in the middle and hucking it? Do you throw it like a javelin, try and lead with like the side or the side where the meat is on the burrito?
I still feel like you tomahawk it.
Go end over end with it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how you get the most velocity on it. Either way, don't do it. But still, our champion for the week, the speeding sheriff's deputy here on What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Let's take a break. Michael Swain's up next on 580 Sports Talk.
Former
That was vodka.
Dollar signs. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
What a scene in Lawrence, Kansas tonight. Every Tuesday at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, we chat with Michael Swain from Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. That is where Michael covers the Kansas Jayhawks, basketball, football, and recruiting better than anybody. You can find him on Twitter at mswain247, and all of his work is at Fog.net. Michael joining us here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Michael, how was Arlington for Big 12 Media Days last week?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. I think that might be one of my favorite events of kind of the calendar. It marks the start of football season, get to catch up with a lot of old friends across the conference. So it was a great time and definitely ready for football season now.
How spectacular was Jalen Daniels' highlight chain in person?
It was blinding. When I first saw it, Brian Haney put out a good video at the beginning, and I was a little surprised to see that. And then you see it in person, and it's pretty clever. It was pretty cool. I think Jalen definitely won kind of best dressed I think, of anybody over the 2 days there in Arlington.
I was going to say, I thought the KU crew was looking pretty sharp.
Yeah, they were. I think all of the KU contingent, they were first team, got it on at the Big 12 Media Days, I have to say.
Yeah, they were, and I love the fact that, KU and Lance Leipold took them to Weavers to go get custom suits. I think you look across the Big 12, and it's a lot of everyone being cookie cutter. And I think it's really, really neat that Lance Leipold and them really said, hey, go pick your suit for this big occasion, because it is a big occasion, right? Guys like Jalen and Devin and Kenny have done this before. But for someone like Rich Miller, this is really cool to go from Buffalo and where he was in Detroit to now getting a chance to go represent KU at an event like that, wearing a suit like he had too, right? Pretty nice. So I think it's really neat that they got to do that. And it wasn't just a plain generic suit like some of the other teams were doing.
We do have some football we will get to here in a couple of minutes, but Michael, I wanted to start today with some basketball news. Marcus Adams electing to leave KU. We should specify that yesterday we were talking about this. It was one of our big segments, and he asked out of his national letter of intent, but it has now come to light that since he was enrolled in classes, he actually has to enter the transfer portal now since he was on scholarship and had to accept aid. Big picture here, Michael. Why didn't it work out for Marcus Adams in particular, to the point where he decided to leave before boot camp even started?
Yeah, there's a lot to get into, I think. I think it's multifaceted. I think first and foremost, you're looking at a guy who, I think big picture, had probably different plans for himself than maybe the KU staff did in the end, where, you listen to him talk, and I think he was talking a lot about believing in himself being a one and done. I think a lot of players believe that, right? I think Jalen Wilson's a good example of that, where I think he kind of coming into college thought one and done and thought every year was going to be his last, but it didn't really impact him in terms of the way he carried himself on the team. I think this is a situation that's probably a little bit different, where I just don't think there was maybe a good gel of what, Marcus Adams wanted and what maybe KU wanted out of him during this freshman season. So he decides that it's going to be better for him to go somewhere else, and it's a big decision now, right? You're talking about transferring. And look, there needs to be an FAQ little section for some of this stuff, because there's so many different nuances to this, right? Does this count as a free transfer if he is able to get a waiver? If he doesn't get a waiver, obviously he sits out redshirt this season, but there's also maybe the chance that there's some academic stuff he's got to finish up before he can even go and really, really play college basketball. So there's a lot that's going to have to be sorted through on that side, I think, over the next kind of couple weeks. This is late, and now you're looking at what schools have scholarships and what schools can kind of make it work. So big decision. I think it's one that for Kansas doesn't really impact them for this season. It's more of a long-term projection, I think, with Marcus Adams. So one of those deals for this season in particular, not a huge impact for KU, but I think just for Marcus Adams, the human, there's a lot to sort through.
We're chatting with Michael Swain from Fog.net. It's Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Head over to Fog.net to check out all of Michael's coverage of the Kansas Jayhawks, and you can find him on Twitter as well, at mswain247. He joins us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. So what's next, basketball recruiting-wise, for KU? We already knew that the Jayhawks were interested in still adding another player to the roster. Now they've got yet another open roster spot after a second freshman leaves this offseason. What is the plan to fill that spot? I imagine they probably can't do it by the time the Puerto Rico trip begins in, frankly, a matter of days. But what is Bill Self and the rest of his staff targeting here to fill that next roster spot?
Yeah, well, I think they're probably going to, if they can, just get two. To have 12, because obviously Zach Clemens is going to redshirt, and so that's a scholarship spot that then is going to be kind of more or less taken away for this season. And so I think right now, kind of the big name is Johnny Furphy, an Australian guy who plays for the NBA Academy in Atlanta. He's really come on strong. He's someone that was a 2023, so technically he should be going to college right now, but his recruitment was slow, so he pushed it back a year to 2024, but then he's really come on strong this summer and really impressed. Kansas has offered him. North Carolina is now really pursuing him, and it's kind of a question for him. All right, does he want to arrive late, right? Because you're talking about him taking visits at the end of the month, and then maybe into the first week of August and making a decision, and then enrolling in classes 2 weeks later. So, I mean, that's pretty fast for someone. And so that's a decision he has to make. I think Kansas is going to do their best. I think there's a good shot they'll get him on campus for a visit at some point when that dead period does come to an end at the end of the month. So he's really a big name right now. Still digging around to see what we can find for a second target, if there is one at this point in time, because look, there aren't a ton of options. The portal is pretty bare at this point. And the high school ranks, you're looking at kind of more guys that are going to prep school for a year who maybe can reclassify up and have the credits to get accepted to the University of Kansas and have enough to get kind of academically eligible. So there's a lot that still has to be done, and we're talking here, right, late July. I think typically Bill Self would love to have the roster set and be ready to go, but that's just not how things work this day and age with college basketball.
Again, we're talking with Michael Swain of Fog.net, 24/7 Sports Network. It's Jayhawk Weekly, as Michael joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Michael, if I may double back to Big 12 football media days, what impressions did you take away from talking with the 4 Kansas players, hearing from Coach Lance Leipold? What were maybe the biggest things you took away from what you heard from those guys down in Arlington?
I think there's a different level of swagger and self-belief than there probably has been in as long as I've been going to this event. You look at the guys they brought, right, and they're experienced. And I think they're a great representation of the program, but I think they're also pretty honest guys, right? Rich Miller's not going to give you canned answers. Jalen Daniels certainly isn't. I think Devin Neal's pretty straightforward and honest too. I mean, you can see his comments about potentially this being his last season, right? He's been pretty straightforward about that. And so I think they were honest in saying that this time last year, right, they probably didn't feel like there was a lot of respect. And that kind of shows itself in the hallways, stuff that us as reporters on the scene don't really get to see, but it's the interactions with other players and other coaches. And I think that these guys have more name brand and name notoriety. And I think other players there, other coaches there, I think have to respect what Kansas has done. And I think there's just a level of self-belief there now too, where I think Kansas players believe that they belong. And I think there have been times in the past where you go to Big 12 Media Days and it feels a little bit different than I think it did this year. And so I think this is a team that personality-wise, I think they're able to show it at a place like Big 12 Media Days. And I think they're guys that are ready to kind of continue to prove it this season because they, for as much as they talk about feeling respect, they also feel like they really still have a lot to prove.
Yeah, Rich Miller kind of mentioned that when we talked to him. Devin Neal did as well when we had a chance to talk to them out there. That they said that on campus they really sense it, like people smile when they see you as a Jayhawk football player. Do you sense that respect is not just from their own peers, but also from the media types, from the coaches, from the new members of this league who know that they're not just going to be able to mark Kansas down as a win on their schedule as they join a new league?
100%. I think the media poll probably shows that, where I think Kansas was slotted probably where they should have been, right? Kind of in that 7, 8, 9 range. And I think that going into this year is probably where they're going to start the season in terms of just overall. And I think you can look at the interviews for Lance Leipold, some of the players, right? A lot of people that weren't around last year were showing up this year to be around them. I always remember Lance Leipold coming off the stage last year, and there was 4 of us there to talk to him for a little breakout session. And then this time around, he steps off the stage, and I'm struggling to get my camera in there to get a video for the website. Like, it was just such a different vibe around Lance Leipold and the players. And I think there's a lot more attention. I think people want to hear what these guys have to say. And again, I think that's just such a huge difference to even last year when it felt a little bit more just local media centric.
Final couple of questions for Michael Swain of Fog.net, joining us for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Go check out Fog.net for all of Michael's coverage of all things KU. All right, Dan and Jake were down there for Media Days this week, Michael, and they were asking all the KU players as they came through our table, if you were going to give a tour to all the newcomers to the Big 12, you've got whoever's coming into town this year, you're going to tell them how to spend their time in Lawrence. We'll ask you the same question. If you're telling the UCF beat writers or the BYU beat writers or whoever, how are they going to spend their time in Lawrence? Where would you direct them? And this segment is unsponsored currently, so you can list any restaurant you want.
Fantastic. I'd say definitely go to Burger Stand for lunch. I think that's one of the first places I went to when I visited Lawrence as a student. Really cool. Obviously, you got to see campus, go see Allen Fieldhouse. And I think for dinner, I've got to plug Merchants. I worked there for a couple of years when I was still in school, my first year out of school. So it's a great little restaurant, fun, I think, atmosphere there as well. So I think those would probably be the 2 restaurants I'd say. And I think you just got to go see what Lawrence is about. And I think you see campus, you see Allen Fieldhouse, and I think you really get a feel for why recruits, people that visit Lawrence, they stick around and they want to go to school there. So I think those are some of the things that I would encourage other beat writers to go to.
Preferred bar that anyone should go to?
I like Henry's. I think Henry's is kind of cool. I would stay away from the Triad. That's what I would encourage the adults to do.
All right, adults, do not go to the Hawk. That's usually a pretty good piece of advice. I think Hunter
A
Dickinson
well-known
wishes
Kansas nightclub.
Yes, a local nightclub known as the Jayhawk Cafe. Michael, final thing I've got for you on the football recruiting front. One of KU's top defensive tackle targets still on the board, elected to go elsewhere this week, heading to Virginia. What's the latest on the KU football recruiting front?
Yeah, you're kind of in this middle spot now where it's kind of decision time. So right now, I really think kind of the guy that's on the board for Kansas is Michael Boganowski, the linebacker from Junction City. So he's going to take another visit to Kansas. I don't have my notebook in front of me, but the last week of July, he's going to take an unofficial visit. He's going to go see K-State in Oklahoma. After that, I think KU is right in the mix right now. And I think it's one of those deals where if he's taking more visits, I think it goes to speak that, hey, he's kind of undecided in the fact that these are the three schools he's seeing. I think go to show you that, hey, there's still some room for Kansas to make a big move in his recruitment. So still a name to watch, but I think outside of that, you're kind of looking at the recruiting trail going a little bit cold here heading into the season when the coaches will really start to focus on the next class and really get ahead.
Is there anything left that KU has to get? Like Michael Boganowski from Junction City, stellar player. We've talked about him a bunch. And obviously, even if you weren't looking for a linebacker, or I know some teams are recruiting him as a safety, you take that player because he's that much of a talent. Is there any spot right now, though, that KU has to fill before they wrap up this class?
No, they don't. I think that speaks to the job they've done on the recruiting trail, right? They don't need a defensive tackle. They took 2 last year, and I'm sure they'll go to the portal this offseason and replace Devin Phillips. And so I think you look at really overall, they kind of swung on some wide receivers, didn't really land anything, and they really were able to get all those other positions of need kind of completed during the month of June and the first kind of week of July. So now it's about keeping the class together, trying to go finish hard with Michael Boganowski and really add another top tier kind of 4-star recruit to the class. And I think at that point, I mean, if KU is able to get him on board, you're talking major win for KU and overall. So I think just right now it's keep the class together until signing day. And I think that'd be a good spot to be in.
Nobody covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than Michael Swain, and he does so for 24/7 Sports and Fog.net. You can also find him on Twitter at mswain247, and he joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, we appreciate the time. Glad you made it back safely from Arlington, and we will talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you then.
That's Michael Swain from Fog.net. Awesome insight into everything going on with KU right now. Definitely weird to have 2 freshmen leave the basketball program in July. That's very strange.
It's different. It's not typically a great sign, but it's not necessarily the sky is falling either.
I don't think I ever asked you, by the way, speaking of Media Day, how majestic was Jalen's chain?
It was so cool.
Yeah, it looked awesome.
Like, Kenny Logan came through iced out.
Yeah.
And then Jalen Daniels one-upped him.
Now, look, you got to win if you're going to wear your own highlights, but that's pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was awesome. We've got to get to a break for the news. We'll start the 5 o'clock hour with headlines after this on 580 Sports Talk. hour left on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 6 o'clock. Then we've got a little overtime at the top of the 6 o'clock hour, leading you into pregame coverage for Royals baseball. Boys in blue taking on the Tigers. Game 2 of their series coming up tonight. It'll be Daniel Lynch on the hill for the Royals. Tarek Skubal for the Detroit Tigers, making just his third appearance of the year, coming back from injury. We'll preview that game coming up in just a little bit. Also this hour, another step forward toward the death of Bally Sports, at least when it comes to broadcasting Major League Baseball games. Good for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and if you are not one of the teams that has been freed from the shackles of Bally Sports, not so great for you, but maybe eventually it'll be good for you. We'll get to that, plus we got a bunch of headlines coming up here. All that plus your texts, 785-272-9429 is the text line number, and your comments on YouTube, where our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Go check us out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Just go to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. That is the easiest way to find our channel and today's live stream. Without further ado, let's jump right on into today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got a bunch of them, and I'm going to start with the funniest of the group.
Please do.
I misheard Dan earlier today. He told me about this headline. It broke during the show. It's reported by Ross Dellinger.
It was during the break, and I passed along what I had read in the tweets that were starting to appear in front of me. We have a special little button that allows us to communicate during the break, and I pushed that button, and what I said and what you heard were two different things. In fact, they were opposite things.
Yes, polar opposites. I thought that Dan had told me that the Pac-12 was announcing a new media deal at Media Day this week. That's what I thought Dan told me. And I said, oh, hello. And then I hop over to Twitter. I had it closed. I hopped over and said, oh, I got to find this right away. And then I discovered when I saw the story from Ross Dellinger, now of Yahoo Sports, just moved from Sports Illustrated to Yahoo, that the report is not that they will have a new deal. The report is they will not have a TV deal.
They will have no deal. You heard new. I said no.
Yeah, polar opposites. Not a great spot to be in if you are the Pac-12. Per the writing of Yahoo's Ross Dellinger, the conference, the Pac-12, will not announce a new media rights contract this week. Sources tell Yahoo Sports, likely extending into August, the league's year-long pursuit of new TV suitors. The Pac-12 holds its annual football media day Friday in Las Vegas. Imagine having one media day,
1
week, where coaches, athletes, and administrators will gather for a celebration of the upcoming season. The marquee event was seen as an ideal setting to announce a new television deal. However, the league is not prepared to announce a contract, despite what has been described as accelerated progress in negotiations. My question at this point, and it sounds like a joke, but I mean this earnestly. How is this possible? How do you still not have a deal?
A whole entire year has passed. It'd be one thing if we were still like 3, 4, 5, 6 months into this thing, but they have kicked the can so far down the road, all the while continuing to insist that they would have something done soon. They would have something done in 2 weeks. They would have something done before their media days, before the start of the new football season, and they don't. There's nothing. And the only explanation is there's nothing out there that works. And they're just trying to string along the members of the conference so that none of them bolt. Like that's what it has to be at this point. They strung along all 10 remaining members of this conference after this year. This is the final year of UCLA and USC in the Pac-12. They strung along the 10 remaining members long enough so that none of them could jump this offseason. And they've managed to keep everybody in the boat. And they're still continuing to insist that media deal is still, it's right around the corner. It's just a little further. It's just a little further. Heather Dinich from ESPN quotes a source as saying, our 10 schools have been ridiculously patient. That patience is about to pay off. Really? You sure about that? You sure about that? That's why?
I would ask, why have you been patient? seriously, what is the benefit of staying patient at this point? Because wouldn't you rather force the issue and try to get even short-term security? Because this process dragging on has meant that the schools that aren't being courted by other conferences have absolutely no security at all, long-term or short-term. Like, it is not a secret that Colorado has been flirting with the Big 12 for months.
Yes, Dinesh refers to them in her article as the biggest flight risk. This is what Dinesh says, and there's more...
Like they're committed fraud.
There's more sourcing, I guess, in Dinesh's article, that the Pac-12 expects to release details of its highly anticipated media rights deal in the, quote, near future. It is likely to include a mix of streaming and linear options and is expected to be on par with the ACC and the Big 12. Can you believe that? Have we been hearing that for the last 3-4 months? Hey, get this. There have been more bidders coming to the table because they've waited so long. Haven't we heard that before? It's the same stuff, and it's still nothing. You keep coming to us empty-handed with nothing.
On Twitter, a number of tremendous replies. One account just responded with a picture of that woman from the airplane 2 weeks ago who was drunk and yelled,
This is not real.
This man is not real. About the Pac-12. That's good. Kevin Flaherty from 24/7 Sports said George R.R. Martin's next book is coming really soon. If you're into Game of Thrones, I'm sure that means a lot to you. And this one is specifically, I think, interesting. The person who tweeted this out, their handle is @EquityBruin. Their name is Carlos. They're a big Pac-12 supporter. I believe they describe themselves as a propagandist for the Big 12, or the Pac-12, excuse me. They tweeted, "No one has good info, but we can make some interpretations. And the only real interpretation I have is that Kliavkoff cannot get it to keep the Pac-12 alive. Why else would this be dragging on for so long?" I mean, yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. If the whole goal is we've got to get the best deal possible so that everyone wants to stick around, and now you've gone on 13, 14 months, and there's no deal out there, what makes you think it's suddenly going to pop up?
Twitter user Jasper Bennigan, in response to Stuart Mandel, who is quoting a conference source, is saying, "We've seen folks come to the table that were not at the table 6 months ago." Jasper Bennigan responded, "HGTV2 and the Hilton How to Check Out channel are the new bidders at the table."
That's really funny.
Somebody the other day said they're going to have to put their games on OnlyFans.
Oh, my God.
Giving an entirely new meaning to Pac-12 After Dark.
Twitter user Seth Varnador tweeted, "It's all coming together," and tweeted an image of Pac-12 X Jefferson Pilot Sports.
Yeah, good old JP back in the game.
Yeah, get him on old Jefferson Pilot. Multiple people who said the real Pac-12 media deal was the friends we made along the way. Yeah, I mean, I just don't.
Lot of tweets that are Patrick Starr holding the dollar bills. I have $3.
Great SpongeBob episode, by the way. Yeah, at this point, I am of the belief that Colorado and anyone else who wants to jump ship are only sticking around for the sake of due process and the sake of negotiating in good faith, because they're going to hear the real deal and they're just going to bail. And they're just going to say, "Peace, we're done."
Yeah, because it's not just as simple as, okay, new deal, everyone's happy. No, the 10 conference members have to sign the grant of rights.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't like the deal, they're not going to sign.
How PO do you think San Diego State is right now? Are you freaking kidding me, dude?
San Diego State. Yeah, we broke up with our girlfriend because we thought we were going to date you.
We broke up and had to move back in together.
Yeah, I broke the lease. Now I'm living in my parents' basement.
I'm paying her rent specifically.
And I have no girlfriend.
Yeah, this is a complete disaster. George Kliavkoff is going to have a train wreck of a press conference on Friday. So be prepared for that.
Yeah,
we might have to get some audio from that.
He had that big talk. He had the chest out last year. He said, "Well, I heard Brett Yormark said the Big 12 is open for business, and we haven't decided if we're going shopping there or not." Which, I mean, that was a bar. Credit where it's due. That was a hotline.
But similar to the Jalen Daniels point, you wear your highlights, you got to ball out. You drop that bar, That's heat. You got to finish the song, man.
Yeah.
He did not, has not, and I don't know that he ever will.
We got a photoshopped Animal Planet Pac-12 logo.
That'd be sick.
Saturdays after cutest animal babies and emergency vets UConn.
I would love for them to just be on random cable stations.
Brian Etheridge of Sikkim 365 just tweeted a GIF of the PBS logo.
It's in every house.
It is.
It's got market reach. Coming up this afternoon, we've got Arizona State versus Utah, followed by a new episode of Downton Abbey.
Brought to you by viewers like you.
Juicy Juice going to sponsor it. Unbelievable. But that's the latest on the Pac-12. It's not going well.
Oh, goodness. I can't believe it.
Unbelievable.
It's really, really funny. Anyway, first headline for me. A former football player at Northwestern is suing the university. And former Northwestern football coach Pat Fitzgerald, along with university president Michael Schill and athletic director Derek Gregg, are listed as defendants in the lawsuit filed by the player, who said the program and its leaders were negligent in allowing hazing inside the team's locker room. The university, its board of trustees, and former president Morton Shapiro are also listed as defendants. The player filed anonymously, but the lawsuit said he was a member of the team from 2018 through 2022. His attorneys, Patrick Salvi and Parker Stenar, said they have spoken to other former Wildcat players and expect additional football players and Northwestern athletes from other sports to join the lawsuit in the coming days and weeks. Stenar says the player who filed the lawsuit Tuesday was subjected to hazing that included sexualized acts and racial discrimination. This filing was one day after a separate group of 8 former Northwestern players announced that they intended to pursue legal action against the school. So the Pat Fitzgerald story, it may be over for him as head coach, but this saga is just getting started, it would appear, in legal terms.
Yeah, and the university is also opening multiple new investigations into the culture of the athletic department. Derek Gregg got to be looking for a new job already, right?
Yeah, it's amazing that he still has one.
I would probably just resign if I'm being like, Liberty will hire him. Like, you're gonna have a landing spot. That's a joke, but also maybe not really. This is terrible, man. I mean, I'm not surprised this went much deeper than the original reports, but it's sick nonetheless. And again, as I've said numerous times, Northwestern as a university should go scorched earth on its own athletic department. I know there's big money in Big Ten athletics and in Power 5 athletics. I get that. You as an institution cannot allow this.
No, not if you're the institution you purport to be.
Right. This sucks. I feel for these players. I really do.
One of them, by the way, freshman linebacker Nigel Glover, becomes the first Wildcat player to enter the transfer portal today.
4-star player. He's one of the highest rated recruits in this class.
He was the highest rated player in Northwestern's recruiting class.
Wow. Yeah, that is brutal. Next headline for me. He's done it again, folks. Last night in a thrilling win and very funny win over the New York Yankees, Shohei Ohtani hit his 35th home run. By the way, Dan, do you know how many home runs Aaron Judge had through this many games last season when he set the AL record for home runs?
Was it 35?
It was 35 home runs. He is doing that while having a 3.5 ERA and striking out 139 batters this year. It is absolutely unreal. He's having a down year pitching, and he's still in a far above average starter this year. And his best is still as good as anybody in baseball.
Also, one of the best bat flips of the season last night on that home run.
Yeah, he watched that ball fly to left center and then flipped the bat 8 feet in the air, end over end.
A lot of sauce.
Yeah.
A lot of sauce on the bat flip.
It was awesome. It was absolutely incredible. Phil Nevin, the manager of the Angels yesterday, said, quote, "Everything he does is calculated to be the best player in the world for the purpose of winning. Everything else that comes along with him is great, but he wants to win in the worst way. This has been frustrating for him these last 2 weeks, as it's been for everybody, but you can see it on him. He wants to win. He wants to win here." I don't think he's going to end up getting traded. I just don't think you can do that if you're the Angels.
If he's chasing history, if he's chasing 60 home runs as a full-time starting pitcher, if you're even barely competitive, you've got to keep him. And they're 5.5 out of the third wild card, which, like, a lot has to go right to jump. I mean, they're behind the Mariners, the Yankees, the Red Sox. and chasing the Astros. But you're vaguely competitive. You're going to get Trout back eventually, not anytime real soon, but eventually. Just keep him, because you will never get adequate return in a trade for that guy. There is no adequate return in trade for that player. So keep him, make your fans happy, give it a go. Who knows? Maybe you catch a scorcher, you win 10 or 11 in a row, you snag that third wild card, and maybe that's enough to convince him to sign a contract with your team's name on the letterhead next year. Maybe it is, but you have to try.
I got to be honest. If you're the Angels and you're an Angels fan and you're 100% honest with yourself, if you're getting a 18 prospects or whatever back for him, how much do you believe your team's going to make it work anyway? Seriously, like how much do you believe that would work out for you? You've got the best player in the world and one of the other best players in the world on the same team, and you haven't won jack.
No, they've never played. Shohei Ohtani has never played a postseason game. The last time Mike Trout played a postseason game, they were getting swept out of the division series by the Kansas City Royals in 2014.
Yeah, how have they been recently? You know how long ago that was?
An eternity.
That was 2014, right?
Yes.
It was 9 years ago.
Yes, it was.
We are getting dangerously close to 10 years since the World Series
the
win.
The 10-year anniversary of the World Championship for the Royals, yeah.
That is, A, makes me feel old, and B, ugh. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani did it again. 35 home runs. He has a very legitimate chance at hitting 60 this year. He's your MVP. It's over. Do not have a discussion. It is over.
Yes, there's no discussion even worth having. He's the best player in baseball.
Yep. He's one of the greatest of all time, and there's really not a discussion.
Yeah, we're closing in on having that conversation with him just because of how unique he is. Next headline for me in our 5A Sports Talk headlines: the pairings for the 151st Open Championship have been released. Tournament gets started on Thursday at Royal Liverpool Golf Club. Last time it was at Royal Liverpool was 2014. Rory McIlroy won it that year. It was the third of his 4 major championships. Of course, it's been a while since Rory has found the winner's circle, almost 10 years, in fact, since Rory has won a major. He will start play early Thursday, although I guess late Thursday, but early for us because we'll actually maybe get to watch. That's an 8:59 Central Time, AM tee time on Thursday. So you can probably watch most of Rory's round live if you're interested in that. He'll tee off with John Rahm, who won the Masters this year, and former world number 1 Justin Rose in a highlight featured pairing. The defending Open champion, Cameron Smith, will tee off with the U.S. Open champion Wyndham Clark and Olympic gold medalist from 2021 Xander Schauffele. They're in the early-late tee time window for the first 2 days. That matters a lot in the Open Championship because when you catch the weather and what the weather does when you're on the course the first 2 days, if you get a favorable draw, that is a huge leg up for the weekend. The world's number 1 player, Scotty Scheffler, will play with Tommy Fleetwood and Adam Scott. They are early-late tee times for that group. Other featured groups, this one is hilarious. Brooks Koepka is playing with Patrick Cantlay. That is funny if you remember anything about this year's Masters and how annoyed Koepka got with the slow group that included Cantlay right in front of him. That's funny that they're playing together. Hideki Matsuyama, former Masters champion, is in that group as well. Jordan Spieth is playing with Matt Fitzpatrick, last year's U.S. Open winner, and Jason Day. Victor Hovland, Tony Finau, Justin Thomas is a fun pairing. Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Tyrrell Hatton, is another featured group. Again, that tournament begins bright and early in the U.S. on Thursday.
Do you know the time difference?
Is it 6 hours?
I believe you're correct. I believe it's 6 hours. Yeah. And then most of mainland Europe is 7. But yeah, 6. Who's the favorite to win it? Who's your favorite to win it?
I think the betting favorite, I'll double check with our pals in the desert at FanDuel, but I believe the betting favorite is Rory, who did win at the Scottish Open this past weekend. And obviously was a runner-up at the U.S. Open last month, has played really good golf all year. Actually, no, it's Scotty Scheffler still the betting favorite at plus 650 per FanDuel. And then Rory at plus 750, John Rahm at plus 1,200. Usually this is not a tournament that guys win by accident or come out of nowhere to win. At least in recent years, that has not been the case. So I'm not telling you how to bet. I haven't decided if I'm going to play any action on the Open Championship after a woeful showing in the last 2 majors. But yeah, you can't go wrong with the big guns at this tournament, because typically that's who wins the Open Championship.
Even with 2 difficult showings in a row, are you still plus or in the black for the year betting on golf because of the Masters?
Yeah, the Masters was enough to keep me in the black for the year, unless I really crap out in the Open Championship.
Next headline for me, Dan, I know you saw this first, and I saw it a little bit later on this afternoon. An incredible story. Do you know the name Hidetora Hanada?
I had not heard that name until this morning.
He is a former amateur Yokozuna. No, not the wrestler. The actual profession Yokozuna, for whom the late wrestler was named.
He is a sumo wrestling champion.
Yeah, the World Games sumo champion, Hidetora Hanada, has committed to play American college football for the Colorado State Rams. He announced at a press conference earlier today in Tokyo that he is committed to CSU, and it will be a step toward making his childhood dream of becoming an NFL player come true. How many kids in Japan do you think have lifelong dreams of making it to the NFL?
Yeah, it's wild.
Not many.
Grew up watching Bradley Van Pelt highlights on YouTube and just has wanted to be a Colorado State Ram.
Hanada said at his press conference, quote, I'm very fortunate to have a chance to go to Colorado State and play football. This is from a Japanese website, so the translation's not great, so bear with me. To Colorado State and play football, it's a challenge, but I'm confident that I can go through it. It's Japan's national sport, sumo, and is challenging an American national sport in American football. So he's been doing sumo since he was a little kid growing up in the Wakayama Prefecture, and was a youth sumo champion by the time he was an 8-year-old, second grade. He became a junior champion a couple of different times when he was in high school before winning the national amateur sumo championships in 2020 while he was in college. He started his college years in Japan. So despite all of this, he dreamt of playing American football. So he has spent the last 2 years as a practice squad player for the Fujitsu Frontiers. He was not eligible to play for a team. He was, I believe, too young. And he had developed enough that he got to play for the Japan All-Stars in the Dream Bowl, which is a game of Japanese All-Star players versus an Ivy League program. However, he did not see action in that game. He made an appearance at the CFL Combine in Edmonton in March, and he was so off the charts that the tape started circulating around Japan and around the CFL, and it even made its way to America, where some college coaches saw it, including Colorado State. They have since offered him. Quote, I'm very excited and a little nervous to take classes at the university soon, but playing for Colorado State is not my goal. It's just a process to make my dream come true. Man, American kids aren't even that bold enough to say that, even though they all believe it. That's incredible. And I hope it works out for this kid.
Yeah, like you would think that sumo would be a skill set that is very similar to offensive line play. The footwork, the handwork, the kind of the punching with a flat hand. I think this could work. Like if he really learns like the nuances of the game, if he's coachable, if he's got the desire to do it, like why can't this work? Why can't he play?
He's 21, so he'll be a little bit more physically mature than a lot of young kids in their freshman season. Most young kids.
Yeah.
Is it going to be offensive line? Because he's not huge. We've got a picture here, courtesy of Inside Sport JP on Twitter, of him in uniform. He's not huge. Like, he doesn't look like, the typical thought of a sumo wrestler is they're gigantic. He's not overwhelmingly huge. Hell, honest to God, he looks more like a fullback than he does an offensive line.
And he's probably not tall enough. I'm looking at an article here from American Football International. He listed at 6'1", which is not offensive line height, but 280 pounds. That's defensive tackle range right there is what that is.
Yeah. He played guard.
He could play some guard.
Yeah, defensive tackle actually would be very, undersized defensive tackle. I could see that. I hope he gets there. I love that quote. Colorado State is not my goal. I want to play in the NFL.
He did 36 bench press reps at the Japanese Combine, which got him the invite to the CFL Combine.
Hell yeah. No, I'm rooting for this kid. I hope it works out at CSU. I can't wait till he finds out about the transfer portal.
When asked what he'd like to accomplish this week, this was before the CFL Combine, Hanada took his time trying to find the right words before turning to his translator, who said he wants to dominate.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Now
I'm all
let's get
in.
rules.
I'm all in on Hanada. Get him on the field. CSU was stinky last year.
Yeah, it sucked.
It was Jay Norvell's first year. He cleaned house on the roster. Like they had a lot of like transfers, and they were really young. They played a really young quarterback. They were miserable. Like they couldn't score points.
No, they could not move
They
the
were
ball.
a bad time. I wouldn't say they were bad. They were a bad time. You want to make CSU football a little more interesting? Get this kid on the field.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Let the big dog eat.
I suddenly wish the CSU had been invited to the Big 12.
Yes.
I would have loved for him to have
How
gotten
do you
in
say
there.
let the big dog eat in Japanese, you think? I'm not even going to pretend to have an answer there.
Could let Google Translate help us?
Yeah, I'm going to learn, and that's what I'm going to shout at the TV when I'm watching CBS Sports Network at 11:45 p.m. this on a Saturday this fall, and I'm in bed next to my wife who is sound asleep, and I'm watching Colorado State, San Jose State.
This rules. I'm really, really, really rooting for him. Any other headlines for you?
No, that's good.
All right, let's get to a timeout then. On the other side of this break, another Major League Baseball team has been freed from Bally Sports. We'll break it down next on 580 Sports Talk.
If you own
Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk, 535 on a Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We've got Royals baseball coming up tonight, 7:10 first pitch, 6:30 pregame on the Royals radio network following some 580 Sports Talk overtime. You'll hear from Matt Derrick's conversation with Mic'd Up earlier on today. We've got another team, Dan, that has been freed from Bally Sports, from the chains of being shackled to the Bally Sports Network. The Arizona Diamondbacks have been, essentially Bally was granted the ability to shed their contract with Arizona So the D-backs are now going to be, or their broadcasts, let me phrase it that way, are going to be handled by Major League Baseball, very similarly to what happened earlier this year with the San Diego Padres. So now all sorts of different TV providers in Phoenix, Tucson, across the state of Arizona are going to have Diamondbacks games. DirecTV, Cox, Comcast Xfinity, Spectrum, Fubo TV, DirecTV Stream, apparently not YouTube TV, but all sorts of different providers are going to have Diamondbacks baseball on TV. Or if you live in Arizona and you want to watch your team but don't have one of those providers, you can spend $20 a month to watch them via MLB.tv. Have you watched any of the Padres games with the MLB produced broadcasts?
The only thing different is the on-screen graphics, and they're the MLB International feed graphics. They would be familiar to you if you watch games on like MLB Network back when they used to do some in-house, when they would do their in-house games. They're their old graphics. They were the graphics in use, I think, for the World Baseball Classic, and they are the graphics in use for their international feed of things like the All-Star Game and the World Series that get distributed to international carriers. But that's the only difference. I mean, the announcers are still the same. It's still Don Orsillo on like 12 out of 10. The coffee must be better there. He's all hopped up every single broadcast. Hey, into the Crow Zone! I used to like Don Orsillo, but I think he's taken the dial up a little too high.
It's hard to replace Dick Enberg, too.
It is.
Man, rest in peace. What an all-time great.
One of the best.
Anyway, this is big for the Diamondbacks, and there are so many teams that I imagine are hoping that this happens for them as well. The Diamondbacks were a part of the most recent bankruptcy lawsuit involving Bally, if I'm not mistaken, and that is why they are the most recent team to have this unfold. The Royals, as far as we are aware, are not any closer to being freed from Bally Sports, because Bally owns their streaming rights, among other things. They are too deeply entrenched. A couple of other teams are in that same boat. The Rays are in the same category, among others. This is a good thing. You should have the product be more accessible to people. That is very obvious. And
yeah,
this is good for Arizona.
And what MLB is saying is that right now, 930,000 homes in the Arizona MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. I think that's the MSA, or sometimes it's the DMA, the Designated Metropolitan Area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure which one they're referring to. But anyway, let's just call it the home TV territory for the Diamondbacks, which is Greater Phoenix. Apparently right now there are 930,000 homes that can receive the Diamondbacks broadcast on Bally Sports Arizona, because there are some cable providers that do not have agreements with, as Royals fans are well aware, there are carriers that do not currently have agreements with Bally Sports Kansas City. So now you expand that reach by virtue of this offering and then the agreements with the cable providers regionally to 5.6 million homes that can watch Diamondbacks baseball. And this is great timing because the Diamondbacks are good.
Yeah.
And not only good, they play a fun brand of baseball. They've got a ton of speed. Corbin Carroll's one of the most exciting young players in baseball. He can fly. Jake McCarthy's got 99 speed on MLB The Show. They got a bunch of dudes like that who can really, really pick them up and put them down. And they steal a bunch of bases and they take the extra base. They're a good defensive team. They got Zach Gallen, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like, the Diamondbacks should want to be on as many television sets as possible in the Greater Phoenix area right now. Strike while the iron's hot. And they haven't had the opportunity to do that because they've kind of been caught in the middle of Bally Sports and their lack of coming to an agreement. Like, if you think that the teams in question don't want to be on TV, like the Royals don't care that their provider's not on TV right now in a lot of homes in Kansas City, I think you're wrong. I think that they would love to have much more coverage and much more reach.
Yeah, of course they would. I don't think it would be good for any team. You know, the Royals, who have struggles with attendance, people would love to watch if they were able to, but you have to jump through so many hoops. You have to have specific providers. It's just not worth it. The Royals, the Rays, who have had a hard time building and maintaining their fan base over the years, unless they are really damn good, which they are right now. But generally speaking, they've had some issues with that. The Reds, I know, have really wanted to get out of their contract. That's another example of a team who might be let go here soon. It's good to have more people be able to watch your games. There is a reason that it was such a big deal when the NFL put Thursday Night Football stream only, because the NFL's thing forever has been, and there's fewer of them, so this is easier, but get all the games on network TV so everybody can see them. It's a big deal. Here's an even better example. There's a reason that during the course of the year, during the course of the NBA season, there's like maybe 10 games that ESPN puts on ABC. But the finals, you better believe those are on ABC because they want people to watch those. It's easier. Everybody in America can get those stations, whether they have cable or a streaming service over the top or an antenna or whatever. That is better for your product. So now if you're in Arizona, this is great. You can get it no matter what your service provider is pretty much. And even if you don't have a service provider, there is a way, albeit pricey, to be able to get the games in your home market. I hope every single team that has a Bally Sports contract gets this. I hope every single one of them does.
It's $19.99 a month for fans to subscribe if they are wanting to watch Diamondbacks baseball, even in market on MLB TV. And then if you subscribe to that, I think you get everything, but I could be wrong on that.
At the very least, you get, it's only $40 the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Maybe they might prorate it. I actually believe this is a separate payment, if I remember correctly from the Padres setup. I don't think you get full MLB.TV if you pay for that. Maybe I'm wrong. If someone is more in tune with that, let me know. But I do believe you have to still pay for them separately. But either way, like if you're a fan, and I know there's a lot of these people around baseball, a lot of baseball fans who they really only care about their team and they know about other teams because when they come and play their team, you're probably fine just paying the $20 instead of the, now would be probably like $70 for the rest of the season at MLB TV. This works out great for them. I hope this happens with the Royals.
It is amazing that fewer than 1 million households in Greater Phoenix could watch the Diamondbacks.
Especially because Phoenix is freaking huge.
Yes, the Valley is massive. And especially if you like, if you also consider Tucson a part of that, which I think you kind of can.
Oh, yeah.
Like fewer than 1 million households in that footprint.
Insane.
That's just bad business to not have your games on TV like that.
I believe it's the fastest growing metro in America.
I think it is.
Or Maricopa County, where Phoenix is the fastest growing county in the country.
Well, it's been 290 degrees there for the last 10 days. So
stay in and watch baseball.
Right. That's what you want to do.
No, this is great. Again, I hope every single team that has a Bally contract gets this soon. Really, really do. Let's take a timeout. When we come back, Royals Tigers game 2 tonight. Can Daniel Lynch take care of business? We'll discuss next right here on 580 Sports Talk.
Do you have
We will get to the Royals momentarily. I promise. I've been thinking about this all day since Dan pointed this out to me this morning. We made fun, I certainly made fun of Iowa State's schedule a couple weeks ago for basketball this year because it's so bad for a Big 12 team, one that wants to make the NCAA tournament. McNeese State is a Division I program. Their new head coach is Will Wade, formerly of LSU. You may have heard about him and his strong-ass offers. Their non-conference basketball schedule is, by several magnitudes, the worst of all time.
They're going to have to invent quad 5 to describe some of these games that McNeese State is playing in the net ratings.
Like, they play at VCU to open the season. All right, VCU is a good program.
Yeah, but Will Wade is coach there. It's a good game. Good opening test for the Cowboys. Who they got next?
College of Biblical Studies, who is playing its first ever season of organized basketball.
Sounds extremely real.
November 13th, they played Champion Christian.
Yeah, Champion Christian played 5 Division I teams last year. Lost to them all by 50+.
They are playing something called Laturno on November 14th, one day later.
Not Mary Kay Laturno.
No. I don't know what that is.
R.I.P. in peace.
Yeah.
Laturno is in Longview, Texas, the Christian Polytechnic University.
Sure.
Yeah, you got to really filter through all the Mary Kay Laturno stuff to get to any information about this school. They are the Yellow Jackets. They are a Division III school competing in the American Southwest Conference.
They should not allow Division I to play Division III.
No,
that should not be allowed.
No, not only at an exhibition.
Right.
If it's an exhibition, fine.
They will then play a handful of Division I schools. They get Western Carolina, Texas State, Louisiana Tech, UAB, UT Martin, and they'll end non-conference with 3 straight D1 schools: Southern Miss, Louisiana Lafayette, and they even go to Michigan. But on December 5th, their 4th to last non-conference game, they're playing the Mississippi University for Women, which actually has men and a men's basketball team.
And has for over 40 years.
I just read during the break, there was an attempt several years ago to rename the school. They wanted to rename it to something gender neutral, so it would not be the University for Women that also has men. It was rejected by the Mississippi Senate.
Yes.
They said no. What? That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, they want to stay. They want to make sure that the name of this fine learning institution remains as storied as it did when it was founded in 1884 as the Industrial Institute and College for the Education of White Girls of Mississippi. Not making that up.
No, that is very real. You've got to be embarrassed if you're Will Wade. I don't care how new your team is. I don't care how many sanctions you had levied on you by the NCAA. This is embarrassing. Laturno, give me a break.
Famous alumni from the Mississippi University for Women include the drummer from the Zac Brown Band and Eudora Welty.
Sure. That drummer, by the way, for the Zac Brown Band is the only male listed on their Wikipedia of famous alumni.
Because, again, they've only been admitting males since 1982.
20% of the student body. Probably easy to find a date. Well, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
lot of...
Go Owls.
Yeah, go Owls. I looked online. Their merch, not great. I was hoping to get the U.
The
W.
They're the W. That's what they prefer to be called.
Unbelievable. Vance asks on YouTube, is that schedule really for real? Yes, no, it is for real.
Real as steel, Vance.
Yeah, it's as real as it gets, and it is really, really embarrassing.
So is the bit about Eudora Welty. We have not told a single lie over the course of this segment.
We do have Royals baseball tonight following overtime and pregame at 6:30. Tarek Skubal for the Tigers versus Daniel Lynch for the Royals. Skubal is only making his 3rd appearance this year. He started the year injured. Very solid last season, though.
Yes, and so far this year, 8 innings, no earned runs, 11 strikeouts. So he's tough, and he has shown the ability to be tough in his 2 starts in return. The Royals touched him up a little bit when they faced him last year. 5 runs in 4 2/3 in one outing, 5 runs in 6 innings in another. So the Royals saw him pretty good last year, but this is obviously a new year. Daniel Lynch goes for the Royals tonight. Last time he saw the Tigers, 7 innings of 1-hit shutout ball.
Pretty good.
So, yeah, a couple lefties on the bump tonight. Should be a good pitching matchup. Interesting pitching matchup.
Should be fun. Lynch in his last 4 games, 2.63 ERA. Not quite as good in the last 2. He's been fine. But no, very interested in this. It would be nice to see another strong start. I have no faith in the bullpen. The game for me ends whenever Daniel Lynch is taken out of the game. That is when I am going to determine that this game is won or lost. I was just talking to someone the other day. Was it Greg, maybe? It might have been our pal Greg Akagi. And we were talking about the Royals game on Saturday as we were getting ready for the Shrine Bowl. And I said, you remember for 3 weeks in May when the bullpen was the best part of this team?
Yeah.
Wasn't that fun?
That frequently happens with lousy teams. I've seen it with the Rockies many, many times. For 3 weeks, hey, those guys in the bullpen are on a roll. And then they have to pitch every day. And then what happens by June? They're completely slagged and their arms fall off. And Taylor Clark is the harbinger of doom.
We've got, again, pregame coverage at 6:30, first pitch at 7:10 for Royals Tigers tonight. But before we get there, we're going to wrap up 580 Sports Talk next with the final word.
What if your body...
Let's wrap up this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan, it's time for the final word.
If you are a fan of Kansas City pro sports, the time between mid-February and today has been a long tunnel, a long, dark tunnel. Even the Kansas City Current and Sporting KC have been a bummer this summer. And then there's the Royals, who we don't need to go into too much more detail about. But there is light at the end of that tunnel. Patrick Mahomes is in St. Joe. Andy Reid is in St. Joe. We're just around the corner, and not in a Big Ten or Pac-12 TV deal kind of way. We really are just around the corner from the start of football season.
Final word for me on this Tuesday afternoon. It is kind of amazing, as we have had so much debate around us about running backs in the NFL over the last 24 plus hours, that the Chiefs really have one of the most valuable rooms in the league. They've got a bona fide number one who's making no money in Isaiah Pacheco, a perfect backup in Jerick McKinnon, who fills the exact role he needs to fill to a T, a possible undrafted rookie free agent find in Deneric Prince. And oh yeah, by the way, a former first round pick on the roster too, who, hey, if he's healthy, maybe he can help out if you need to give a respite to Isaiah Pacheco, who's going to start training camp on the PUP list. That's a pretty good room making very little money in a week in which a lot of running backs who wish they were making a lot of money have a lot of negative things to say. The Chiefs are, well, sitting pretty, at least for right now. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk, though, on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. Check out the podcast at our website, 580wibw.com, or you can go back and check out the video at any point from today on our YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. We're talking more Chiefs, Royals. We'll hear from Tim Fitzgerald and much more. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This is 580 Sports Talk. Overtime's next, then Royals baseball.